Okay. Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody, wherever you are. Welcome to another edition of the FEP Collaborative Fidelity Equity Partners Start Conference. Can't hear me? No audio?
I can.
Oh. Maybe it's on your end, Tom. Can you hear me now, Tom?
I can. It just went away for a little bit.
Oh, there we go. You know what? That was probably on my software here. Let me adjust that. Okay, we should be good there now. In any event, going back to what I was saying, welcome everybody. The start. You still can't hear me. I'm thinking no. Are you losing me at all, Kevin?
It cut out for a second, but I got you now.
Yeah, it's now. I kind of cut out and went and came and.
Going on. Well, let's see what's going on. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing great.
Doing great.
Are you an Avalanche fan? I never asked.
Well, I'm originally from New York, but excited about the local things that are happening here.
Yeah, they can win the cup tonight.
That's what they're saying. And we have a little what is it? Farm team called the Colorado Eagles. So we've gone to Eagles games before too. That's a lot of fun. Can you guys hear me okay now?
You've been doing good for now.
Okay, so let me just make sure. Okay, we should be good. Well, let's start that again. Welcome. Here we go. Thank you so much for that, Dan. Welcome everybody once again to the Start FEP Collaborative Fidelity Equity Partners Start Conference, and super psyched about every one of these. I mean, I got to tell you, we have got brilliant founders that have some remarkable technologies and businesses. We're going to be showcasing them all today. And one of the first things that I wanted to talk about was the status of what's going on in the market. It's been all over the place. So if you're a sophisticated investor, I'm sure you've been licking some wounds from the ups and downs of the markets. And yet private companies like these ones are doing great because they're not succumbing to what happens in the public markets. That's the exciting thing about alternative investments or private placements or anything like that. And what's become real in vogue and popular, and we've been talking to you guys about them as well, is something called an SPV. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but also wanted to just make that awareness to the folks that are plugging in that some of these companies are great fits for SPVs. We've launched a couple of those, looking forward to continue heightening the visibility of these great companies with the investors that are out there. But with what we have in store today, I know that there were a couple of people that unfortunately were sick. It's crazy how this COVID thing is going around again. I don't know over by in your parts, Tom and Kevin, what's happening over by you guys? Are you feeling any of that?
Yes, my daughter, her husband, and two boys all had it at the same time and were sequestered into their house. And we had to DoorDash food over to them, and it was just awful. And they were sick for 7 days.
Yeah, my wife, the same thing. And what's interesting is you can be a carrier, because when my wife had it the week before last, the doctor just simply said, well, just assume everybody in your house has it. And I'm like, well, I don't know how you can assume that. But I suppose because even though she went into her room and was quarantined, but before that, what had happened? We're all, sharing time together and just being a family together. So invariably, you figure that's the case, but we didn't show any symptoms. So I guess you can be a carrier and not even know it. Well, that's happened to me twice so far.
Both of my grandsons were having the best time ever, no symptoms, but they were testing positive. So they had to stay home with mom and dad, who were sick as dogs. I mean, they were, and there's nothing we could do other than leave things on their doorstep and all that.
Yeah. Well, in any event, it's certainly been something that I won't say will cripple the country again like it did before, but it's just something to be aware of. My brother's got it now. He's running through that, and it's harder for him because he's a diabetic and on dialysis. So certainly no fun for him. But before we get started, like we always do, Dan, if you could get ready with our American flag. We always start with a prayer and a pledge, and we'll go from there. So Dan, if you could put up our American flag. I love this country. I love what it stands for. I love free enterprise. I love the ability to be able to share that. You can't just do that in any other country. A lot of people don't recognize the amazing freedoms that we have in this country. Even though with things going on right now with Roe v. Wade and whatever your position is on that, I'm just grateful that we have the opportunity to do what we do here at Fidelity Equity Partners and not have to be concerned about putting up a flag and praying or anything like that, and being grateful and thankful because we have certain freedoms and I love expressing them. So let's go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United
States of America
and to the republic for which
it stands,
one
one
nation
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, and
with
liberty
and
justice for all.
All right. Well, Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for the amazing group that I get to showcase here this day, Lord. I'm humbled by this opportunity. I ask that you bless each and every one of these presenters today, that you would have your way in their lives, Lord God, that investors would see the massive opportunities that are at stake here. And Lord, that you would undergird these companies with finances and no toxic strings attached or anything like that. And use these companies, Lord, for the glory of your name and the advancement of your kingdom. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right.
Amen. Amen.
Let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to start off with you, Tom. And
Okay.
as we do this interview style, we had someone that was ahead of you, as you probably saw, and then he had to move around some things. A couple other people were sick. So we have a short roster today, but needless to say, Tom, you've got a great company with Opango. And I think as we were just talking about, can you guys still hear me? And when I back away, do I fade off? Okay. With what's happened with COVID, the electronic learning platforms, or LMS, these learning management systems and the software have been available for a long time, but it's really become apparent how we need them so desperately, because there's lots of organizations out there that don't even want to gather anymore because of the risk of people getting sick and stuff like that. And you know what that all looks like, Tom.
That's the truth. Yeah.
But why don't you just touch a little bit on your background, because you saw this a long time ago. You had a passion for aviation. Certainly don't want to take away from your story, but let's start there, Tom. How this all evolved and why you kicked off Opango.
Well, let me first we'll get to that in my second slide here, but I want everybody to know that I've been in small, medium, and large companies, primarily in the C-suite, managing engineering and product management and a business unit. And I've delivered telco quality product to the global markets in every time zone on both sides of the equator. Now, like Izzy was just saying, I also, turns out, I'm an aviation enthusiast. So what happened was, I'm a technology guy, I'm an aviation enthusiast, and I was wanting to figure out how I could do something in aviation and apply what I know to that. And what we identified as an opportunity where the entire universe is trying to increase the safety record of all pilots in fixed wings and helicopters. And so what we decided, and they didn't really have a way of delivering all their training. So what we did, we cooked up the idea of delivering their training worldwide through an LMS. Now, and in the middle of that, we also realized that other associations and small businesses often need to train and certify thousands of geographically dispersed members and partners without the resources to manage an LMS. And the fact of the matter is, we do everything for them. Now, you can Google LMS for aviation, and you'll find a laundry list of them that say they do that. But what we do that's really different is we actually manage the LMS for them. And when you think about that, we're the administrators. We do instructional design, content development, and we're kind of the outsourced e-learning department. And if you talk to my main contact at the Helicopter Association, he'll say, I'm good with helicopter operations, and I believe that he is. He says, I don't know about content delivery over the web. National Association of Flight Instructors, they're an all volunteer staff, and they're out flying their corporate jets and their customers and whatnot. So, you know, they just don't really have the way to do this. And then pilot safety, he's a solopreneur. So he's a highly sought after speaker, trainer, travels all the time. And so he needs help with this. So, oh, I'm sorry. So I met Greg Brown in Las Vegas, and he was very frustrated that he had an emergency and the current provider could only guarantee a 7-day turnaround on an email. So I gave him my business card and said, you call me anytime. He called me 3 times and then invited me to Alexandria, Virginia for a day trip. We took that LMS business from Docebo, which is the largest LMS provider in the world. And we did that because we're reachable and we're responsive. Now, last year, our most recent project with the helicopter guys is 56 Seconds to Live. And you probably all heard about Kobe Bryant out in California. That's what really put a lot of energy around this. But it turns out after you make that last bad decision, you and everyone on your helicopter are going to perish. And so they need to improve the safety record of helicopter operations through better decision making. And that's what brought this up. This course right here has had more traction than just about anything I've seen anywhere. So how do we do what we do? We claim we're the Chick-fil-A of LMS platforms. We are all about customer service. And so we're the LMS administrators, the training strategies, content development, marketing strategies. Turns out not everyone is, some people need a lot of help with marketing as well. And we're very service oriented. We really are the outsourced e-learning department. So the COVID has forced the global education system to embrace web-based online learning and training. And employees are now demanding it. They do not want to travel somewhere and be gone for a couple of weeks when all they have to do is go sit at their desk or in their car at the park and use their mobile phone. LMS billings in 2019 were 9.64 billion. In 2021, they were up 64% to 15.8 billion. And they're estimated to be 37.9 billion by 2026. Now, just this week, I was in a meeting, a big meeting, about 120 business owners, where this guy gets up there and says that because the recession is coming, his basic message was at the end of it, everybody must go digital. And as a result of that, I believe I'm inking another customer just as a result of him saying that and me hearing it. So anyway, everything is going to go digital, and it's really happening in a really big way. So our go-to-market strategy is, first of all, we want to really up our own game around digital marketing and outreach. We're still going to go to trade shows and industry events and sponsorships in our target markets. And we're going to add LMS administration and account managers and accelerate our product roadmap. Now, and just to be clear, I've already got, I've green-lighted a dev team to start the product roadmap now. So that's all underway. And we'll be starting some of our digital marketing here pretty soon. Our executive team, James Roselle, I've worked with him in 3 companies, super sharp technical guy. Tom Dennis is our marketing and brand management. Chris Kambala is it's an onshore offshore development team. And fortunately for me, they're here in Dallas, so I get to meet with them in person here in town. And Charlie Quinn is another outsourced HR company, and we're going to use them for whatever HR that we need. Now, I've got the best advisors in the world. Everybody here probably knows Izzy. I can't say enough good things about what Izzy has done for me and helping me, sharpen the message and setting up this environment. Dan Matthews is a Excel whiz and financial model with. I can't really say enough good things about what Izzy and Dan together have done for me. David Zumwalt, I've worked with him in a couple of companies, and he's also, I'd say he's a serial entrepreneur. He was just really helps you bring a lot of clarity to all of your thinking. David Sim Smith is a venture capitalist with Mobility Ventures. I've known him for years here in Dallas, and I've been getting advice from him for as long as I can remember. Super sharp guy, knows the markets. Pat Hamner is with Patriot Capital. He was on our board at one company I was at, and he walked in one day and said, "Look what we're investing in." And he opened up a box, and it was Heelys, these inline skates. And I have to be honest with you, I thought, really? Well, you know what? They printed money with that thing. And now he's just really doing all the good. And so, I can talk to him. I see him about every couple of months at Southwest Venture Forum, and we catch up on what we're doing. Dan Vermeyer, somebody that he's an M&A guy, more or less. So as you know, any company, you need to be on your way to being acquired at any time. You can't just decide and after years of doing nothing. So Dan Vermeyer is really good about helping me make sure that we're doing all the right things to make the company more valuable and sellable. Bob Bolanger is the same thing. He's a CFO advisor. He's steeped in SaaS companies. So he's been extremely helpful to us. So we're saying this, once we can get some funding in here, we're going to break even somewhere near the end of year 2 and maybe at the beginning of year 3. And around $21 million in revenue by year 5. And we think that's very doable. In fact, it may be even too conservative. So what we're looking for to do here is to start out with a $1 million bridge with a SAFE with a 20% discount, but we expect to raise a total of 3.7 million. And actually, we may be actually doing an SPV here with Izzy as well. So we'll see how that goes. Use of funds, digital marketing, and sales. I mean, those are the two things that we really, if we can just put some gas in this thing will take off like a rocket ship, I'm telling you. And we need to add some administrator staff and account managers. The product roadmap, there's two things that we have to do. One is data analytics, and the other one is updates to the UI UX. I've already got those two things underway. And what I'm doing there is I'm actually partnering with my largest customer, which is HAI, and getting their management team to look at what we're doing. And because we want them to be our flagship customer that loves this thing and that it works for them. So these things are underway as we speak. Anyway, that's really all I've got.
Great job, Tom. I mean, your story is so impressive with your background and the timing of what's necessary in the marketplace today. When you look at that, you got a lot of hungry, interested parties. But go ahead, you were going to say something.
Well, I was just going to say, when I was in this meeting the other morning, I couldn't have paid that guy to talk for 40 minutes and sum it all up by telling everybody they all got to go digital. But he's right, and he put together the strongest argument possible. And truthfully, he invited me to they had a little happy hour, and he introduced me to their operator, and she and I are talking about them being a customer of ours because they got to go digital too. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. It's just an amazing thing. But what really works for us is that these smaller companies don't have internal departments or internal people that can manage all this. So when I tell people that we will administer the LMS for them, they just light up at that. And you know what? I light up too, because that's what really, really gets you over the top with them.
Well, I think what would be really healthy for investors that are watching now or listening to the recording to understand is, what did it look like back in the day? And then I'm going to ask you a question related about since the advent of Zoom. But what did it look like back in the day with teaching folks in aviation and bringing them up to speed with certain safety and security standards? What did they used to do?
Well, what they usually do was they'd have like a quarterly meeting, and maybe a 3-day training class over once a quarter, and maybe move it around inside the United States. And so now if you want to go to one of those, you had to find out when they were and which one you could go to, and then you fly your own airplane there and be there for 3 days. Well, what happened is that let people out who were in Alaska, Hawaii, and Europe and South America, because they just couldn't come here. And a lot of business owners can't take off 3 days for class. So imagine them going online, and now they deliver all the ground school via an online platform. And now they have a directory where you look up a local flight instructor who's been certified in this training, and now you do it on your own time. And so now they took their reach from what we call the lower 48 to Alaska, Hawaii, South America, Australia, and Europe. And it's just, so that's a huge transformational change. And they had to do that because they just don't have the people to do all the classroom training that they need. And they don't have the pilots and business owners don't have the ability to spend that much time. They wanted a solution.
Well, there's no doubt, if you've been watching the news, there's a shortage of pilots.
Oh,
right?
yeah, right, there is.
In fact, I saw an announcement that American and United were both paying these pilots double time for the route that they were doing, just so that they can continue, servicing the customers. But it brings up what I was going to say before. Since the advent of Zoom, explain to investors why it's not practical to simply have an instructor over Zoom, with hundreds of people online at a time. Can you speak to that, Tom? How difficult it is, or where an investor might say, well, who needs LMS? You've got Zoom. You can just do anything that you want on there.
You can do Zoom, and I've seen some, but what happens is you get onto a webinar, and you're sitting here all by yourself, and they just don't pay much attention to what's going on. And see, with an LMS, the biggest difference with an LMS compared to just Zoom is that person has to open the course. They have to navigate through it. And we're recording all of that. They have to take a test at the end. And if they successfully navigate through the course and take a test, then they get sent a certificate. And with that certificate, they can go to their insurance company and they can get better insurance rates, and then go to the FAA and get these thing called wing credits. If I'm just sitting in a Zoom, you know what? I can have the Zoom turned on. I can't really tell somebody in a concrete way that I actually listened to anything that was said.
Right.
Now, what they do sometimes, I think, is they email them a test, but you see people who, like insurance companies and FAA, they want to know in a concrete way that Tom Allen actually took this course, how long it took me to take it, how much time I spent with it, and what did I end up with at the end is a certificate.
Yeah.
So
and
Zoom doesn't really address all that.
No, it doesn't. And I think what's important to recognize is your platform can tell when they started something, when they logged on,
right.
were they paying attention to these things? I think all of that is important to recognize, because you certainly don't want someone, skimping through the information for safety protocols, right?
Well, the other thing, which we haven't really talked about, is we have a really nice survey engine. And for some things like continuing education credit, you're required for them to take a survey before you issue a certificate. And then you have to send the aggregate survey results to the approving authorities. You can't do that with a Zoom, not realistically anyway. And
at all.
So there's just things there that does not work in a Zoom. Now, I do run into people who talk to me, and I say, you know what you really need is a YouTube channel, because not everybody needs an LMS. You know what I mean? They just don't, all they need is something to put some content out with. You get an LMS because you want to manage who's registered, and you want to know what they've been doing, and you want to know that they passed the test. And so you can, with confidence, issue them a certificate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you take that story I was telling you earlier. If you go take all this ground school and don't pay attention to it, and then you have to look up with an instructor and get a local instructor to certify you, they will know in under 5 minutes that you have not studied that stuff.
Mm.
So you have to have been very deliberate, know what you're talking about, and answered lots of questions. And for
Well,
that, the insurance company will reward you.
Let me ask you this: in a situation like what the tragedy with Kobe Bryant, from what I understood, everybody else was saying we're not flying right now because of the weather conditions. But for some reason, he was able to fly. I don't know who allowed him to get off the ground or anything like that. But shouldn't that instruction have been there already, or is that with the pressure of a customer saying, "Hey, I got to go"?
If you go look at 56 Seconds to Live, it's like this. I'm not a helicopter pilot, but I am an instrument rated fixed wing pilot.
Mm-hmm.
The helicopter squad for the LA Police Department was not flying that day because the weather was so bad. Now, this helicopter pilot decided to take off to fly Kobe Bryant to LA anyway. He was at a helicopter company that only allowed visual operations. So he had no business taking off. He had several opportunities along the way to just find a spot and land because he's in a helicopter.
Yeah.
Now, he was an instrument rated pilot. So when he got close to LA and the weather got so bad, what he did was he got afraid he was going to hit a mountain or something. So he decided to climb, and he lost control of the helicopter and killed everybody. So
Wow.
there were 3 decision points where he could have made better. Now, you asked, isn't this in training? Well, what they're training them to do is to make better decisions along the way. And if you're a visual only helicopter pilot, which there's a lot of them around, they get in trouble. And what happens is the trouble just kind of sneaks up on you so slowly. So have they been given some training? Yes. Have they been given the courage to tell a customer that they're not flying today? No.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you from my own experience, I have a lot of courage. If you want me to fly you somewhere and I don't think it's safe, I am not going.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But a lot of pilots, they just don't think it's going to happen to them. And the weather just sort of slowly closes in on you. And next thing you know, it's too late. So,
and that's something that I think you can educate people en masse with your platform.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the reason why I brought that all up is so that people can understand all the details, as opposed to just thinking a pilot made a stupid mistake. It was more so that he just didn't realize the trouble that was creeping in, and that's what happened.
You know,
yeah, go ahead.
It's amazing how, because I've flown all my life, it's amazing how slow it happens. And it's slowly happening, and then all of a sudden you realize that you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And so what you have to do is recognize that things are not working the way you think they are, and you need to make a different decision. But you need to have all these decisions, I think, made ahead of time too. So what they're really trying to do is to get pilots, in particular in helicopters, to be more proactive about saying no to things. Yes. And making better decisions along the way. And so if I'm flying you somewhere in a helicopter and you're just hammering me like, I got to get there, I got to get there, I got to get there. Imagine me going, well, you know what? You're not going to get there because we're landing. Well, I have just saved your life and my own, and you're mad about it. So.
Tom, do me a favor, go back to your slide. I think it's one slide back on the offer.
Yeah, right here.
So what's been exciting about this is you've had some sophisticated investor interest, and for everyone to know and understand what's being offered here, $1 million bridge, because we're likely going to be raising another $2.7 million. So let's call it, just round it up to $4 million, somewhere around there. You certainly don't want to be giving away equity foolishly. But I think at the valuation, and we can talk about that offline with any investor, related to the SPV that we'll likely be doing, you're getting a significant discount versus what's going to be happening after this first $1 million. Anything you want to speak to that before we move on to Kevin here next?
Well, this is something you and I have been talking about, and what I've gotten is some varying interest in. It's because it started out asking for 3.7, and what I found out is the people I'm talking are more in a million. We can do a lot with $1 million, and but it's like this. I think what makes a lot more sense is to get started with something and not try to wait till you have the whole thing, if that's what you're asking about.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to tell you, you know what? Somebody writes $1 million check, we're going to do handstands, and we're going to light this thing up like a rocket ship.
Yeah. I think it's so scalable and it's so needed. It's going to
Yeah.
take off like wildfire. So give Tom Allen a round of applause. Great job, Tom. You did excellent there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, Izzy.
Yeah, appreciate you as well. All right, let's move over to Kevin Neal next. Kevin, we moved around a couple of things because of just people that had gotten sick. I know one of the person is running late. He had an investor meeting, so he wanted to prioritize that. Someone very interested in his company, so that's great. So if you wouldn't mind terribly, Kevin, leading it off, I think what you're doing is remarkable as well, and there's a synergy between the two of you guys. In fact, you've been together in the same meeting. What was that event that you invited him to, Tom?
So I'm a member of a thing called Executive Healthcare Network, and I'm sort of the Dan Matthews of the Executive Healthcare Network. So not as good as Dan, but anyway, and Kevin and his product is something that my group really wanted to hear a lot about.
Yeah.
So I heard about. I mean, I got to know Kevin in this cohort, and it just hit me one day. We need to have him speak to the group, and so he did. He was our last speaker for the season, and it was a winner. And Kevin, you did a really great job with it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. So we talked about securing medical records. So it's really a great event and great people. So appreciate it, Tom.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
as you know, Kevin. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, healthcare is sort of one of our networks also. We're really aviation, and we've kind of landed in cybersecurity and in healthcare. So all this hybrid Zoom business and everything turns out, if you know how to do that, you're a hot commodity.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin, again, you did a great job. Everybody thought that was just superior.
Thank you.
Well, as you guys know, having 4 kids in sports, and I've got them in football, wrestling, lacrosse. My little princess does dance and Krav Maga and all these different things where there's all these risks of injury. Kevin, we were just at the hospital again. We've got frequent flyer miles there. My 15-year-old, he's got 2 broken ribs from a wrestling tournament, and immediately thought of you again, because you'd be surprised how many hospitals are still using paperwork.
Yeah.
And, there was definitely some electronic work that was there, but for sure, you see the doctors at their station, the nurses station, everyone's with pens and paper and clipboards and things like that. And there's a lot of room for margin for error there with transposing things. And what P3ID can do with securitizing information and tokenizing that's the way of the future. I have no doubt you're going to become a household name for businesses. And I know we're talking about launching an SPV as well. And right now we're looking for some smaller tranches right now for some other things. But I'm so excited about what you're doing. And Tom, it sounded like you wanted to, or looked like you were signaling to say something there.
I did. One of the things I talked to Kevin about is I was providing continuity of care for my mother for 10 years. I had to keep all of her medical records in my head, and I had to explain to all these various people everything. And so when I heard about what he's got, I just imagine how much simpler my life would have been. Because I got to tell you, it's a chore to keep up with an elderly person's medical situation and be able to explain it to doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm having to explain things to doctors. So anyway, I think Kevin is just going to hit it out of the park with us.
I think so as well, especially you being able to own your medical information, right?
Yeah.
That's the exciting thing about this, because I think about, my parents, and like you're mentioning what you had to do with your mom, they still ask elderly people, okay, are you taking any medications? It's like, well, obviously your doctor prescribed them. Don't you see that in there? Like, why do I have to say it? Why can't they just look at the information that's there? but they want to rely on someone's memory. It's like, so anyway, I don't want to step onto a soapbox here, but Kevin, I am super stoked with what you're doing. Excited to partner on that SPV as well. I think you're going to revolutionize the way people look at paper in businesses, not only in healthcare, but just in businesses in general. So without further ado, Kevin, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, that's a great discussion. And let me just get on my soapbox really quick, because I'm very passionate about this stuff, because you're right. There's data that you own as a consumer of healthcare, for example. These are your medical records. And that's the whole idea behind HIPAA is portability and accountability. You should be in charge, not somebody else. And I know that's not the way it is in reality, but you're right. It's very difficult to collect the data first, then secure the data, then analyze the data, and then transfer the data. If you want to take your medical record, Tom, and you want to transfer your records to somebody else, you should be able to revoke it from that person and give it to somebody else. So there's now technology available to do these things. So as a society, we should do it. And in practicality, people should insist that I am in control of my data. So yes, yes. So let me
take it away.
Okay, here we go. Okay. So P3ID is in the future of work business, and this was not just a transition since COVID started. We've been in this business from the beginning. So we allow organizations to take documents to intelligent data. So as we were just discussing, it's very difficult to collect, organize, and utilize the data. So that's what P3ID does. We offer simple user experiences to be able to collect data from document scanners, copy machines, voice control systems, cameras out in the parking lot to collect license plates, for example. So we allow organizations to collect, organize, and effectively utilize their data. We're a first mover in secure cloud solutions, and we're sort of like the Amazon Web Services of digital transformation. So you could just throw your stuff into our cloud system. It can understand what it is, where it goes, and keep it secure. So that's the analogy I like to use. And then we picked 3 vertical markets of retail, healthcare, and government. And it's not just because these are gigantic industries with lots of data and documents. It's because we have specific subject matter expertise in each one of these verticals. So we just didn't pick it because it was the industry of the day. So I'm going to start with my team before we get into the technology, because everybody that's reviewed our business says we have an exceptional team, and I couldn't agree more. And this was a very strategic thing that we did. So I'm Kevin Neal. I'm the CEO and founder of P3ID Technologies, and the P3ID is the power of 3: people, process, and policy. Getting people to adopt technology is one of the most key things. It's not that the technology is not bad or doesn't work, but you have to get people to embrace it, and that's where you get good systems and efficiency. I've worked at leading companies such as Fujitsu. I was the product marketing manager for their document scanners, and then most recently I was at Abbey Software House selling their OCR and their natural language processing solutions to big enterprises. We're also part of the Twain Working Group. I'm a board member and also the marketing chair. So this is a great thing for us to commercialize and monetize an open source software. Ed Stevens has over 30 years of experience in healthcare. So as we were discussing, we have a lot of use cases around healthcare and a lot of opportunities around healthcare. And Ed Stevens was one of the original people at Cerner Corporation a long time ago, over 30 years ago. So he's a wealth of knowledge around healthcare. We also have Bill Edwards. He's a 40-year ex-Navy captain, so he knows the federal government extremely well. He knows local government extremely well. And then we have Steve No, who's an ex-Army helicopter pilot in Tom's wheelhouse. And he was one I worked with at AutoNation when we did a gigantic AutoNation deal. He was implementing that solution, and now he's come on board as P3. So we have subject matter expertise into 3 vertical markets. So let's start with the problem real quick. And these are big, giant government entities that I just want to reference. And the first one is the government when they did the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. they've allocated over $800 billion. And according to this article, August 17th, $76 billion of fraud. Now, I just heard it's like over 180 million or billion now if fraud. So the problem is that they couldn't collect the data, they couldn't review the data, they couldn't do checks on the data that they even collected. So it was a huge problem. It really shouldn't have happened. It was very predictable. So the government had a problem in fraud with PPP. The United States Postal Service, they had a program that they were going to do electronic voting via blockchain and mobile devices. They perceived this as not secure, the blockchain. So it's pretty amazing that that was the conclusion. And I don't know what the status of that project is, but that would have helped people, provide this voting system and provide transparency and security in voting. And then last but not least, the IRS. I love this quote because they said the paper is IRS's kryptonite. So I have no illusion that P3 is going to go to any one of these and solve their problem tomorrow, but our solutions can solve these type of problems. And then we're looking for the funding to scale up to engage these types of organizations. So as I just gave 3 government examples, but we're very focused on the small and medium businesses right now. And when I say small and medium business, I still mean hundreds of millions of dollars and hundreds of people. So it's not like just individual users or 1 or 2 person companies. So the problem is that we're solving is the customer pains. So it's basically lost revenue because they don't have easy access to their data. So on the national average, about 1.5% is written off in bad debt just because they can't prove a service or they can't prove, a delivery. They can't prove that you got a product. So these are kind of simple things, and they should just collect all their documents, collect all their data, and then be able to provide proof of service so that they can avoid these write-offs. Most businesses are trying to transition to cloud, but they don't know where to start. So that's a problem with getting people to adopt this technology. So we make adopting our technology is very frictionless. And as I mentioned, they just simply can't access their data. So I have a specific example talking about this. So this is where P3ID comes in. Our solutions help organizations recoup that or avoid that 1.5% write-off of bad debt. We can also reduce costs on business process automation. So instead of people keying in data, we can collect the data and then basically classify what the data is, extract the data automatically from the documents and the artifacts, and then put it in a workflow. So it helps businesses reduce operational costs so that people can do more meaningful things, like in the example of healthcare. The healthcare providers can be at the bedside providing care to the patients instead of doing tasks involving paperwork and those sort of things. As I mentioned, we have a secure cloud service and providing data analytics. We can make programs like Tom's Opango smarter by being able to collect and give him data in his LMS system. This is a visual depiction of where we fit. I like this slide, so let me do my laser pointer here. We have agreements with many of these manufacturers that I'll talk about in a minute. And then we have channel partners as our go-to-market. And then we're addressing these 3 vertical markets, as I mentioned. We are the glue that is between the device. It might be cell phones. In this case, it's mostly document scanner companies and copy machines that need these kind of cloud services in order to make their devices more valuable. So we sit here and we provide different technologies and a cloud solution to be able to automatically ingest documents and then extract the data and then put them into workflows. So this is just a visual depiction of where we fit. This is a busy slide, but this is just a partner application. I'll come back to this in a few minutes. But it's a healthcare analytics application. And what it does is, as you can see, it's got all kinds of different dashboards and all kinds of different data that they're utilizing to detect infectious disease. And again, this was not a kind of a pivot. They were already in this business before COVID, and they could go and they offer hospital cleaning technologies so they can collect the data and then visualize it. So we basically be able to provide these type of applications, make them smarter with our data. So I'll come back to this in a few minutes. The market itself is pretty massive. According to InfoSource and their latest numbers, the capture market is about a $32 billion worldwide market, and it's got a 17% annual CAGR. So it's definitely growing. There's all kinds of different use cases that are emerging all the time. The US market itself is about a 5.5 serviceable market, 5.5 billion. And then P3's serviceable market, because of the 3 vertical markets we've chosen, we feel it's about a $2 billion obtainable market for us in particular. I showed you the slide of where we fit, we're the glue. So this is a very important thing. We have excellent relationships with the hardware, the document scanner hardware manufacturers. I'm an ex-Fujitsu employee, as I mentioned. We have great relationships. So the CEO over at Fujitsu, he said, P3ID's installation and integration services is important. Then the general manager at Kodak Alaris, he said P3ID cybersecurity is strategically important to their platform. And then the CEO over at Visioneer, who's a Xerox licensing partner, he said the Visioneer and the P3ID solutions are closely aligned. We do have three MOUs signed with some of these manufacturers, and we're actively going to market with our combined solutions. So that's kind of the hardware partner ecosystem that we're working. We're also engaged with end users, customers. So you can see a bunch of logos here. So we have a partner company that has sold to each one of these companies, and we're transitioning these customers over to P3ID. And we've sold them a bit of software. And a lot of these are longtime customers like New York Power Authority, Kim's Chocolate, Papa John's Pizza, and the London Stock Exchange. And we sold a technology to them, and they love it, and they're longtime customers. And now we're upselling them to different kinds of technologies like blockchain or mobile or other kinds of workflows. So this is a great opportunity to land and expand. So these are some of the logos on the left side here that are current customers. We also have vendor alliance partners. One is Sodexo. So they offer services for hospitals, and they've taken that analytics application that you saw that I just flashed really quickly, and they install this in the hospitals to confirm that they've actually done the room cleaning in the hospitals, and they can have some analytics around it. So you can see some other vendors here. So we're really well positioned with the hardware people, and then also the engaging with the end user customers, and then the vendor alliance. So we have several go-to-markets. And I'll give you one example. I love to talk about this use case. It's with Big O Tires and Jiffy Lube. So Big O Tires does the tire change, obviously. You bring in your car in, you get 4 tires and the 5th one free. And then the Jiffy Lubes, you come in and they'll do an oil change for you. So this would, Big O Tires was actually, after the service, they would print out the invoice on a printer, and then would have the customer physically sign the document. And then they would have a box storage company come pick up those documents. I think it was on a daily basis. And then they would transport them to a storage facility. And that's what Big O Tires was doing. But they found out that what the problem was when a customer had an honest dispute, maybe it's like 30 days after I get my credit card statement, and I said, I don't remember my 5th tire because they had put it in the trunk and I just forgot about it. Well, now Big O Tires can, now that they've implemented our scanning and capture solution, they could pull up the digital image and they could say the image, and maybe somebody wrote, hey, I put the 5th tire in the trunk. And it's just written on there. So they could say, hey, I'm going to email you a copy of this invoice. And then the customer says, oh, yes, I remember it was in the trunk. It's just been 30 days since I was there. I forgot about it. So now Big O Tires can recoup that 1.5% of bad debt that they were writing off. So that was the first tangible cost. It was a really great solution. The second thing is that they were paying the box storage company to come physically pick up the documents, store the documents, and then when they had to retrieve it, they had to pay it. So they're paying 3 times. So there was a customer convenience criteria that they had met. They also recouped that bad debt, and then they also didn't have to pay the box storage company. So now with the solution, they scan the invoices in real time, they put it in their document management system, and it's beautiful. So they've used 3 of our products, ScanBot, which is the scanning product, then the data extraction product, and then the storage product. So it's really a wonderful example. And this could be replicated many, many times. This is how we make money. these are what I call our hero products. As I mentioned, we're the Amazon Web Services of our industry of digital transformation. And we have three products, three hero products I consider, but we have additional ones, and they can be used independently or together. ScanBot is what Big O Tires use. So this is an image acquisition scanning software, and it allows you to connect all your devices and scan into a workflow. We have a mobile version of that you can take pictures and put in workflows. And then we have a AI system that can do document classification extraction. So this is our plan to get to $1 million of annual recurring revenue by selling these numbers of these systems, and we're well on our way. The funding will help us put more focus on the existing pipeline and then working with the customers to do the implementation, testing, and final acceptance, just like we did with Big O Tires. So, so these numbers are quite achievable. We're just looking for additional business development people to engage our current pipeline customers. I've talked a little bit about our go-to-market. This is really cool because we don't have to, we're getting most of our referrals from our business partners. Like 99% of all the businesses, opportunities that we have, Big O Tires, Jiffy Lubes, all this has been referrals because they trust us. So we're engaged at the end user customer, but we're selling through partner channels, reseller partners channels. We're selling with partnerships like the hardware manufacturers I mentioned, the OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. And then we are engaged at the end user. So we actually get to talk to them, learn the use case, make our technologies better. So there are certain instances where we will do direct sales. And then we have the three chosen vertical markets of retail, healthcare, and government. Then there's also some even spinoffs, like use cases around law firms, transferring documents like mortgage, transferring legal documents. There's also use cases around mortgage transferring and then deal rooms in oil and gas leasing. I do want to talk about our partner integrations because this is a very, very strategic and valuable activity we're doing. So we have our product, ScanBot. We offer an API for technology partners to integrate their technology with our technology. And then we have a solution together and we go to market and we do a revenue share, or they license our stuff or we license theirs, and we put it together and then we go independently to market with our respective solutions or together. So this is very exciting and very sticky. When somebody integrates with our technologies, that's a major decision because that means we're in bed together and we're going to have a long-term relationship. So we've got a lot of companies, and I would like to put Tom with Opango on here and say, you know, we have an LMS integration coming. But here's a couple examples. We're integrating a handwriting recognition technology that's really cool, like for doctor's notes. A lot of them are handwritten, so you can actually recognize the text and then index it and search it, even if it's handwritten technologies. We also have this analytics application partner that I showed. We have facial recognition for authentication. And then we have some vertical markets in healthcare and dentistry. And then I kind of skipped over blockchain NFT because there's a lot of use cases around there. So we're finding this a very big area of interest, like we were talking in the introduction, to transfer your medical records from Dr. A to Dr. B and then revoke access and make sure it's authentic and it's trusted. So we could do things like that. I mentioned mortgage to transfer deeds and titles, and county recorders to provide authentic documents or authentic transcripts or authentic diplomas. You know, we were talking about that too. So make sure that everything's authentic. And you could do that through non-fungible tokens. So since we have access to the endpoint of when we're creating the documents on the scanners or the phones or from cameras posted in the parking lot, then we can say these are authentic documents, and we can blockchain them, we can NFT them, and we can provide this kind of really cool transferability. One example of our partner integrations is EnviroSafe. Again, they do room cleanings. So you could do sampling of air, surface, and water. And what they do is they've integrated our mobile bot, which is a mobile application, and it's an e-forums. You can also take pictures of the rooms and say this is before cleaning, this is after cleaning. They can go into hotels and say this is the hotel room before and after if they just need to take a picture or two. Or it integrates with document scanners. If I get a stack of Izzy's medical records and there's like 100 pages, I'm not going to take a picture one by one. I could just scan them. So no matter how EnviroSafe people want to work, they can do e-forms from camera or from document scanners. So I'm going to show this again because it's a busy slide, but this is how we make a application like EnviroSafe better, because we collect all that data and secure that data easily. So if an analytics application like this does not have the data, then it's just kind of a dumb system. With this additional data and metadata that we could provide from, how we capture where the GPS location, the IP addresses, the MAC addresses, all those things are important to understand so you can have proper analytics. So this is what we're doing. We're finding there's millions of applications out there that can use our kind of technology, and we're looking for those ISVs, those software vendors that want to incorporate our technology to make their systems better. We're a really good marketing company. So this is an example of our marketing syndication program. So when we have partners, then we can brand our websites and our brochures and our videos with their logos, their contact information. So, and we actually do this as a service for them, and then they can get to market quicker with using our vocabulary and our terminology and explaining things that, the way we think that is effective to sell. So this is a really wonderful program, and this is how we can onboard partners and resellers really quickly. This has been a fabulous program. So we're a really good marketing company. Our advisory is awesome. We meet once a month. We've been doing that for 2 years. They're all ex-CEOs or ex-CTOs, very diverse group, experts in all of them in their industry, Carl, Chris, John, and Dave. Really talented people. Very happy to have them, very honored to have them as our board of advisors. We do have a 5-year plan that we worked up with Dan. So we have a very solid plan. Key highlights are we're going to run at a high margin. So over the 5 years, we project 75% margins. We're software as a service, as I've mentioned. Well, I haven't mentioned it, but alluded to. So software as a service. And then we have a plan to get to profitability in about 24 months. Our burn is really low right now. It's only about $10K a month. I have personally bootstrapped $250,000 into the business. We do have one small investor at $25,000, and then we also recently got a few more commitments. So we expect quite a few investors to come in the near term. We do have a $125,000 line of credit, and then really important, similar to Tom, use of funds is mostly to close existing business in the near term. We have a really good pipeline, but we need the resource to engage and do the things in the meetings and the demos and the sign-offs. So those kind of real business tactics things. We do project about 30% for R&D to get the customer feedback and then reiterate our product. So, but it won't be heavy on R&D. It'll mostly be 60% sales and business development, and then 10% G&A. So we do have a full set of financials. Happy to do that in a private meeting. And then the investment ask for raising a $2 million seed round on safe and convertible notes, 20% conversion discount, and then 25,000 increments, $25,000 increments for the investment. So we're happy at P3ID. We're happy to onboard investors into the future of work, digital transformation business, where I'd be happy to answer any questions. I stunned them or put them to sleep. Any questions from the group?
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Unmuting.
No problem.
You know, they say once you go Mac, you'll never go back. I don't know. I've been having trouble lately. Well, I got to tell you, with what is being presented in the marketplace as technology and storage, you guys just make things so simple. And if you could speak to, for a moment, that deployment that you did with Big O, I think it's important for investors to recognize, because oftentimes they get confused with, is this a hardware company? Is this a software company? You know, that type of thing. Can you talk about how the simplicity and how easy it was? Well, I'll use the word simple. How simple it was for you to engage with Big O Tires and how you can scale this nationwide into retail channels?
Yeah, it was a really great example. So let's just talk real quick traditionally. So this is 31 locations in Southern California. Traditionally, you had the provision of PC, install the operating system, do the operating system's updates, install the software, and then do the training. So when they were going to do the first 17 locations and they had to drive around the locations and they put one scanner in each place, they allocated 2 weeks to do 17 locations because that's what it traditionally took. With our solution, we set up all the profiles on the server and they physically went and plugged in the scanner and then it inherited all the job buttons on the panel. So literally it took about 5 minutes to install the scanner and get them operational. That was pretty amazing to them. And they were like shocked and they were like, oh my gosh, So it took them 2 days to install the scanners because most of the time was driving. It wasn't even, and the 5 minutes, it took them 3 minutes to unbox the scanner and then physically plug in the power and the network once that was done. So we got them operational within minutes. I mean, it was like literally 10 minutes they were scanning documents. And most of the time was just training them how to take the staples out of the documents, how to kind of prep them if they were sticking together a little bit. So most of the time was just, chit-chatting with them and getting it. So that's a great example of the reseller partner was very, very happy because now they got more time to sell. They recouped, a week and a half of their time. The customer was super duper happy. The additional rollouts are great. So centralizing all the workflows on the server like we did with ScanBot saved them a ton of time and a ton of effort. So I like to say 5-minute deployments and 10-minute workflows, and that's the reality. It's not waiting days, weeks, or months to get your system set up anymore.
Yeah, and I think in so many applications, I even think of moving in our backyard here is CSU, which is like the Tiffany University for veterinary services. I think about what this can do even in that world with number one, being able to attest to that a doctor gave a certain medicine to an animal or even with them boarding an animal. Like, how do you know that they actually walked your dog for a half hour, 45 minutes? Well, somebody checked off on there, and then you get this packet of information electronically that basically shows you all there's so many verticals that this could go into, and I just love what you're doing. Where do you think the lowest hanging fruit? I mean, obviously it's critical in healthcare, and you mentioned financials with or the financial industry with mortgages, as well as oil and gas. But where's the lowest hanging fruit where it's just easy to adopt and a quick answer to yes, so investors can understand that?
I think in franchises, anybody that has a corporate headquarters and retail stores, just like the Big O Tires, there's tons of businesses like that. If you just want to put a document scanner to get your nightly receipts, like the Burger Kings and McDonald's and hotels, anywhere that there's distributed capture needs is huge. So I think retail environments are the number one. And I think that's the low-hanging fruit. That's a huge opportunity, and they badly need it because, the collecting, organizing, and utilizing your data is really important.
Do you see any additional mandates on the horizon with healthcare having a tremendous need for something like this? Because paperwork gets lost, it gets shuffled around. What do you see on the horizon for healthcare with a platform like yours?
Yeah, Izzy, I've been hearing about the digital record for a long, long time, right? And we've got better, but it's still not mandated, it's not enforced. There's still a lot of problems. I mean, like in this case, Hivia here, or EnviroSafe, there's $190 billion of global costs in infectious disease. And you see what COVID's done. And still, we can't collect a lot of good data on COVID. It's been a problem for all these 2 years. And there's technologies out there, but I think there's going to be mandated. This isn't the last pandemic that's going to happen. So we've got to get a control on it. And you solve problems with data. So if you can't collect the data easily and effectively, if you can't secure it, because these are honeypots of people that want to hack, and then you got to analyze it, right? So all these kind of things. So to answer your question, Izzy, yes, I think, there's going to be laws, regulations, mandates about governing your data, collecting your data, sharing your data, interoperability. I mean, the whole world's going to be a different place in a couple of years. So I think, we need to think that way, and we need to offer the tools, because it's the will to want to do it is what's the holdback. And as soon as we say, hey, you know what, it's got to be done, and then everybody's going to scramble. What's the solution? I mean, just look what happened with work from home. The businesses did not prepare, and they had their documents in their facility at their corporate headquarters in their file cabinets, and then everybody couldn't go get those documents, so they were ill prepared. And now 2 years later, people are just now starting to say, okay, I need a work from home and a work remote kind of strategy. Same thing in healthcare. When people get frustrated to a point where, like, this is ridiculous, right? What's happening, right? And they want to know, hey, what's going on in San Jose, California? And, is it safe for me to go out? And I want to know my hotel room's clean. And I want to know that the restaurant's clean. And I want some analytics on it. I think there's a lot of changes coming.
For sure. And I think even, as crazy as the auto industry has gotten in the secondary market, a great example, my wife and I mentor some young entrepreneurs, and ran into a situation where this young couple that's just starting out, they bought a used Ford Explorer, and they said, we need you to come back and sign something. We missed something. And just the wife goes in and signs some document and comes back and finds out that something else was changed on there. He had all the paperwork, and he's like, wait a minute, this isn't what we signed before. And all of this nonsense. Can you talk a little bit about that in these last couple minutes that you have? Securitizing and tokenizing documents, and how someone can be in possession of that and say, well, wait a minute, this doesn't line up. It's not the same as the information that we had before.
Yeah. Is he, auto titles, any kind of documentation could be tampered. It's easy to have, digital tools like Photoshop, and there's unscrupulous people that will change a document. So you want to, the second that document is created, you want to tokenize it, and you want to make sure this is an authentic document. It might change over time because people have authorization to do it, and there might be amendments to it. So you want a system that the second it's captured is authentic. So you could do that with tokenizing documents. And because P3 is at that very beginning of a transaction, then the second it's created, we could tokenize it. And then we could say, if people have authorization to change it, change the auto title, for example, then they come in through the blockchain. They have an algorithm that says, okay, they're authorized to change it. Then they modify it. And then with the blockchain digital ledgers, it creates another block. And now this next block is the auto title of truth. And in that whole transaction with blockchain and DLT technologies, you could provide transparency so that everybody in the transaction can agree that this auto title is an authentic document. It hasn't been changed. And it's something that you can transfer the ownership to that person, that lady that signed for the car. So there's quite a few things going on with that, but if you can make it authentic, secure it, and then provide access to it, then you're solving real problems, and you could do it at scale.
Incredible. You're a brilliant man, Kevin, as well as your team. It's remarkable what you're doing. I remember back in the 07, 08, probably up until 09 crisis with mortgage-backed securities and what that did to the market and everything else. And what a lot of people didn't realize is what caused some things to capitulate there, where there were some bright attorneys that were saying, hey, this stuff is being passed back and forth to one another. First thing we're going to do is ask your note holder to produce the note, right? And many of them couldn't produce a note. They didn't, it was being tossed around to everybody else. And they said, well, how are you going to foreclose on my client? You don't even have a note. So I'm sorry, case dismissed. So that caused a lot of things to go down. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily healthy. You either, you owe the money or you don't. If you know you borrowed it, you should, honor that. But being that there's unscrupulous people in the world, like you had mentioned, and some pretty smart attorneys, this system that you've developed could completely eliminate that. If this was available in 07, 08, that wouldn't have happened. You'd be able to know exactly where the note holder has this, and be able to prove it up in a court. So again, my hat's off to you, Kevin. What you're doing is nothing short of remarkable. Give Kevin Neal a round of applause with P3ID. I'm excited to see that become a household name.
Thanks, Izzy.
All
Thanks,
right.
Stan. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Up next, we've got my good friend and colleague, Mary Schulenberger, as well as Stephen Coleman. Mary, Dan, if you wouldn't mind spotlighting those two. Mary, talk about brilliant people. I haven't had the opportunity to meet your husband, but what an incredibly remarkable and intelligent individual this man is to come up with this product that I think is going to take by storm the youth sports area first. But what iView could do for that industry is what I believe what the GoPro did for, active sports and things like that, where people are wearing that device on their helmet. And I'm just so excited for you to share a little bit about what you're doing with iView. I'm excited to be a part of this project, not only because of what's happening in the SPV space and where this company could go, but because I am a youth sport parent. Okay, I'm a coach. My kids do football, wrestling, and lacrosse. I almost said play wrestling. It's funny when I talk about wrestling, it's the only sport that I know of that has blood time, right? Like you're shedding blood. If you start shedding blood, you're only allowed to shed blood for you have 5 minutes of blood time. So it's funny, but my kids love these sports, and you've seen before the footage that I've shown you, Mary, with using your device. It's absolutely remarkable. I don't want to steal from the thunder of what you're going to be presenting here, but without further ado, everybody, my good friend and colleague, Mary Schulenberger.
Hi, everyone. So nice to meet you. Thank you, Izzy, for that great introduction. My background, I'm a promotion. I've been an entrepreneur all my adult life, and a successful one, building a promotional advertising company, working with large corporations on their branded merchandise. Just to give you a background about me. So what we're doing is we're transforming the live viewing experience for fans and spectators at live events. At Parlay, we're also addressing a universal problem like what Izzy was starting to talk about, with people absolutely missing the moment. They're holding their phones out at arm's length. They're not being present in the moment. We've all done this. And they are capturing live events, but they're not seeing it in person. And for sports fans, especially parents, this is a very big trade-off that they're making. And of course, at live events, where you can barely see anything. I've talked to so many people that have been, like just recently to a Billy Joel concert, where he said the whole time he was looking up at the Jumbotron, and it's like, that's not what he came for. He wanted to see his favorite star. We wanted to change all that. We thought this is crazy. So we invented the iView. It's the world's first immersive smart binocular. It literally turns your phone into like superpowers. You're able to zoom in on the sporting event where you can record, live stream, and capture everything that your phone is seeing. The iView is really small. We have a proprietary touchpad on top, advanced optics that magnify the phone screen. So what you're seeing is what your phone is capturing. And with these great new like iPhone 13s and the Galaxy 20 and 21s, these cameras are just a game changer for our product, because it gives the user such an amazing experience in high definition. Plus, we're bringing in AR live feed overlay of stats and scores at live venues. You imagine being able to see like the yellow down line, for example, when you're at a game? At this time, I'd like to introduce to you one of our board members. He's an investor and he's former CEO of SoftBank, and he's going to share with you a little more about our exciting business opportunity. Steve.
Hi, everyone. Look, one of the things that I think I should make known up front here is that this is not a hardware play. This is what is called hardware-enabled services, but I think of it more as a SaaS play. The hardware is a platform. Second is that as an investor, myself in numerous funds as well as several straight out private equity deals, this was a situation where I wanted to make sure, because it was consumer oriented, that we had as much data as possible to prove, to reduce risk and prove to you as investors, really how much pent up demand there is. So having said that, we've performed about 3,000 one-on-one interviews in the company, and this is over a multi-year period. It helped us with everything from industrial design to exactly what software should or shouldn't do up front, what's professional version versus more layperson type thing. We've even been named at one venue by ESPN the #1 innovation of the show. All of that is stuff you can get on our website and take a look at. We've done crowdfunding for purposes of trying to get a real understanding whether people would put up money. Here's where some of the real important data is here. We hired a third-party research company, that kind of company that does, all of the big companies out there from P&G to whomever. And first thing this first company did for us was to make us understand who our #1 market segment should be. Because for what we're doing, you can start to imagine as I'm talking, all kind, outside of sports, for that matter, all kinds of vertical markets. Which one is the one that's the easiest, has the lowest hanging fruit, is the biggest, and so forth. And that was named, and that first marketplace that Mary mentioned, associated to sports, and very specifically parents of kids who are in sports, and there are very specific buying personas. We then took that and hired yet another company and said, here's what we want to know. We want to know what is forecastable, what is the proclivity for purchase. I don't like just seeing something like we all see as investors, it's the biggest market in the world. If I only get 0.5%, we're all going to get rich. So what I wanted here was very specific data. That all leads me to, let's move past this slide if we could, Mary. What that all leads to is that came back with roughly, there was 2 tiers of purchase proclivity, but let's just say for simplicity's sake, about 80% of the marketplace that had children that played in sports, they had $80,000 a year household income, and all of those minimum type issues. That worked out to be $1.7 billion of low-hanging fruit for us. So that is very exciting. Our next test is live test marketing. But the reason I'm bringing that up right now is those who come in now obviously are probably going to gain a substantial markup to the next round. Okay, and right now we're just trying to fulfill a seed capability, if I could. So, pardon me. When you talk about best product for the task, and this one really talks to somewhat about competition and so forth. When people were studying or dealing with the problem that Mary mentioned, right? Do I choose between recording or actually watching it, or kind of trying to do both and get the crap recording? okay, putting it bluntly. When you list all of the various different approaches to how to potentially do both things at the same time, you see that, I'm sorry, in ultra small print, but it includes things like iPad, other digital cameras, VR goggles, recording binoculars, all of those kinds of things, even the new Ray-Ban product. And you see how we score versus them. That we are the only ones who really achieve that level of confidence that they can purchase. So having said that, let's move on. What I want you to see here is just a little bit more about that 1.7 billion. There's 124 million households out there, 105 million of them with smartphones. Those that have children, under 18 is 51 million. But now when you start knocking this down to, do they have an Apple or Samsung phone? And we work with basically all phones, but we're going to target Apple and Samsung users first because that's like 75% of the marketplace. That all boils down to 10.3 million households out of that 124 million. So we've narrowed it up. That times, our average selling price of approximately $300 gets us to the $1.75 billion of low-hanging fruit. And again, I'll repeat because it's powerful. This is not talking about the size of the market. This is literally what we can project and do project over a 5-year period in terms of sales, appropriately factored. Let's move on. Mary, I think I need to hand this back to you to talk about the team.
Sure. I shared a little bit about myself and Steve. He's as I said, was the CEO of SoftBank, as well as multiple other companies. He's done taken companies from startups all the way through exits, has exits accessing $1 billion. We also have Sandy Barger, who's a former senior executive from Disney. She has brought hundreds of products into the consumer market. She's the one that has led the effort for our third-party market studies that have just blown it out of the water. We were very excited about the results that we got from the data after asking all these different consumers specifically in that target market. Kuldeep Palba, he's helping us build out that the platform of the cloud. He comes from Samsung Oculus, where he built out the Oculus cloud platform. And Art Schulenberger, my co-founder, and he's also the inventor of iView. He has invented lots of different products from all different sectors. He's a pretty profound inventor. He's got, I think, up to 30 patents at this point in time. He's also an optical and mechanical engineer. We're a very, great team of people that are very excited about bringing this product to market.
Right.
I'll let you get back to
sure.
status.
So this, gets us down to kind of exactly where are we at, and I think that that's a good way to sum things up. I pointed out this is a hardware-enabled service. It's a content play. Just for your purposes, think about the types of augmented reality that you could import over the top of what you're viewing and recording. At the same time, it could be something as simple as Mary mentioned, lines, scores, and you could take that a long ways down the road. Pardon me. So the business model here is all about keeping and developing customers over a long period of time with recurring revenue streams. In essentially of SaaS versions of the software that I'm describing. Importantly, as we start to hit a level of, I won't say peak, but a level of really understanding profitability and so forth, And in what I do, I have to be both conservative and pretty damned accurate about forecasting, as impossible as we all know that is. 70% or so gross margins. EBITDAs are very attractive, 30% plus in year 5. A lot of that's because the recurring revenue is kicked in, the SaaS revenue is kicking in, and so forth. So EBITDAs are lifting. We've taken some of the risk out of this situation in that the product is done. It is shipping. I've got product on this shore. It is being currently manufactured overseas, but we are bringing up and identifying additional manufacturing partners because of all of the stuff that's going on over there as a result of COVID and the Ukraine war, I might add. So, pardon me. Having said that, and as I mentioned earlier, we're really trying to just quickly close out with about $500,000. The seed round, there's right around $1 million in the company, basically a bootstrap type thing, along with some amount of convertible note up to that point. The use of funds, very simple and straightforward. We're going to use it to test market so that we can establish our take rate, so that I can turn around and close, pardon me, a full-on Series A, hopefully at a significant markup. And that will be fairly near in because the test market will only be about 8 weeks long. All right. So that's all I got. Any questions from y'all?
Excellent job, Steve and Mary. Give them a round of applause. And let me go ahead and just take this off of the screen here, because here's what I want investors in the audience to see. Years ago, people would walk around with one of these, right? And you chuckle, Mary, because you got to see people with the smaller, reduced versions of these trying to capture, and they're looking at their kids' ballet, and they're like, oh shoot, and then they move here. This, I love this device because I can put this right here and I'm immersed in everything. I'm watching everything. I can keep moving this here. And then what's happening is my phone that focuses is automatically giving me that on the recording. This is just the binocular side of it, where now I have a high-tech way of live streaming this. If I want to go to, like, for example, we have a family thread so everyone can see what's going on with the kids in the family and the grandkids and things like that. So I can automatically hit the button to throw that live. I can do live stream. There's so much that you can do with this device that is something that is very wanted and needed today when you talk about youth sports and people wanting to just stream content. So when you talk about the low-hanging fruit, Steve, and getting to that number, I can totally see how that happens. What I want to talk about for a second is when you're growing on that side, maybe it's a little conservative. Maybe we start seeing bigger numbers than ever before, because what I think you're seeing a resurgence of now that we've broken out of COVID, is people saying, well, gosh, I want to have my kids in youth sports, and I missed a couple of years and things like that. And then they want to record these events. So can you speak to where this could go in other areas, not just youth sports and, all the different verticals? Can you talk about that for a minute?
Sure. In fact, there's a couple of edges here. The number of verticals, ranges from youth sports to professional sports, just staying in the sports sector. Mary pointed out what happens in a stadium, but we have on our advisory board people like Roger Craig, and that some of you may remember actually touched my first Super Bowl ring. And what we came to understand is not just the viewing experience, but they want to be able to focus in and take specific plays. They want to see it with their friends, and so forth. From a stadium, you're not going to be able to live cast. They're going to stop us from doing that, no doubt. But what's interesting, again, is you can think about the augmented reality, where you can kind of side by side, you can look at the plays of, the same teams playing 1 year ago, same venue, and so forth. And that would all be recorded at the same time. So that's just one area. You've got other sports, like hunting, fishing, boating, all of those kinds of things that really become
Air
quite
shows.
interesting. Birding is way up there. There's a lot of birders out there, and they are looking for far less expensive ways to identify. Think of this, right? Not just looking at a bird, writing it down, but what if they could just look, take a picture of the bird, access the database that says that bird is and was found at this location.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're working with Cornell's database right now relative to that type of thing. Parades, bring it down to personal things. This is what got me originally involved with this company was, parades. You do that with your kids, your grandkids, that type, going to the beach for the first time, with them, going to dance recitals. Oh my gosh. The first time I had to lie to my grandkids when I said, I actually, said, I got you, I saw you. I didn't, because my hand was shaking and I was trying to take the video. So you get a sense of that. Now, let's speak a little bit to the notion of this being underscoped relative to financial opportunity. Look, I look at a lot of plans out there. So, and most of you don't know me unless we did something together in my SoftBank days, and so forth. But, I try to talk about the conservatism in the plan, but it's versus what Izzy brought up, right? The plan that we have that is roughly a total of $1.5 billion in the first 5 years is, taking into account that we have a lot of people to hire. There's execution issues. There might be somebody who knocks on the door and tries to compete and so forth, but we're going to be very much first to market. It's going to be hard to copy what we're doing. There are patents, as Mary mentioned, and so forth. But bear in mind that biz plan, US only. Basically only US. What if we expanded geographically quickly? What if we went into retail instead of the 4th year, we do it in year 2? Because the only thing stopping us from going into retail is proof of take rate. Otherwise you have to give too much away if you try to go earlier. So it's that type of thing. So, the opportunity for this to be double, very easy to conceive. Do we have the ability to execute to that? Question mark. I'm sorry.
Well, you said it out loud. That's what I wanted to drive home. because once you start looking at these numbers and you see how conservative they really are, and as much as you guys have gotten a handle on the demographics that would pick up one of these units, I think the numbers are very conservative. Because when you talk about the people that maybe go on an Alaskan cruise that can afford that, are going to buy one of these to make sure that they don't miss out on whale watching. Yeah. They're also going to do bird watching and watch their grandkids and say, this is something that I have to have. Yeah. I need this for me. And it's funny you mentioned the beach, because we're going to the lake later. And of course, right by my side here, it comes with, when you buy this little pouch here, you just throw it over your shoulder. This thing is super light. I brought it to all my kids' sporting events, unless I'm Matt's side as a wrestling coach. So I just think for the person that wants to be involved with all of that, which you guys have nailed down the right demographics, we're probably really underselling that $1.5, $1.7 billion is what I wanted the investing public to recognize, that there's major opportunity on the table here. And Mary, what you've been able to do on a shoestring budget is just absolutely remarkable. I think the take rate you're going to see really climb after we invest some dollars in that, and people saying, my gosh, where can I get one of these? I'm super excited. It's going to become a household name, no doubt.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you, Izzy.
Thank you for tuning in to Mary and Steve. And what I'm looking for here in the coming months is to see not only this company capitalized, but many of you who are watching and listening, or even checking into the recording, getting one for yourself. So I wanted to make sure I plugged that, Mary. But I'm excited about what's going to be happening here. All right.
Okay.
Up next, Terry. Let's go ahead and spotlight Terry, Dan. are you there? Go ahead and unmute. There you are.
How you doing, Izzy?
Terry,
Doing great.
how are things up in Bear Country in Montana?
Well, it's a little rainy today, but we've got warm weather and summer's finally coming here. And I noticed yesterday when I was on the road, more and more motorhomes heading up to Glacier Park, which is real close to where we live.
And I guess we'll have to bear with any, if in fact you have any internet issues, because I know you're up in your cabin in Montana.
I think so far it's been good listening.
So far, so good. That's right. Well, let's jump into things, and I've got control of the deck here. And what I'm excited about is to share about what Catalyst Holdings is doing. Of course, I'm getting a technology glitch on my side, but I'll get to that in just a second. And what I want to be able to do is ask some questions about what this company can do for the way that people are utilizing cards today. I think with the advent of shopping for things online and the way people do that and all the different rewards that folks can get, what you guys are doing is absolutely incredible with rewards, so that your run-of-the-mill soccer mom and family that maybe doesn't have crypto in their wallet can utilize their Discover card, American Express, and all those things. And we'll get into all the granular details of what that looks like. But let's just start off with the background of why this company formed and who you guys are. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, you bet. The real brainchild of the three of us that are founders is a guy by the name of Mark Usinger. He's up in Denver, and he brings decades and decades of banking experience. And Mike Verdun, who is the third founder, brings another volumes of.
Of course, right when I said it, now you're having trouble. Can you guys see my screen, by the way, where it says Catalyst Capital Holdings?
I'm sorry?
Can you guys see my screen where it says Catalyst Capital Holdings?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to have you do, Terry, is I'm going to have you stop your video because we already had a glitch there. So I just stopped that and
Okay.
just say, all right, there we go. Can you guys all see that okay? Dan, can you see that on your end?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, go ahead, Terry.
So what we bring, the three of us that founded the company is a tremendous amount of experience. And we've backed ourselves with a fantastic staff of technical people, marketing, and so on to make this all a reality. But the real thrust of our business is the fact that banks and credit cards for years have had a monopoly on the use of these cards, debit cards and credit cards. And our focus is, and the banks have basically, in our opinion, overcharged the users of these cards. So what we've created is a trust company that will actually process. If you use our system, you can process all of your spending that you mentioned, the soccer moms and the soccer dads. I got to mention them too. People that actually pay the bills on a daily and monthly basis. All of these charges, all of these purchases can be made using our card. And what we like, I mean, what sets us aside from basically everybody else is the fact that we can give up to 10% cash back immediately. And, I was thinking about this the other day when I was watching television, and the big boogeyman out there of the day is a thing called inflation. And if we're looking right now at somewhere around 8.5% inflation, gosh, if we can offer and give back the user of the card 10%, we've actually covered what is currently, the inflationary impacts that we're experiencing. So we bring, what I like to think of, we currently have a card that is really the Model T of our Envision card, and the encryption. What we did is we bought technology that encrypts debit cards and credit cards, and what we've done with that card is, as the Model T, is we've brought it forward into the 21st century and made a Lamborghini out of that Model T. I mean, imagine if Teddy Roosevelt's cruising down the road and he's telling people about these cars are, they're a little breezy right now, the sides are open and the rain's coming in. The car, we envision, the windshield wipers turn on after there's 10 or 12 drops of water on the windshield. By the way, the new car is going to be enclosed, and guess what? We've even put air conditioning in it, and we can also push this little button over here if we're on a major highway in our incredible infrastructure. We don't even have to steer the thing; it steers by itself. So that's
Right.
kind of what we envision with this card. We're currently offering the debit card, but I'm sure we're going to be soon into the credit card, which will enhance significantly our stream of revenue.
Before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about what that looks like in the target demographics, because we talk about your soccer moms. On here we also have underbanked consumers. Oh, I've got a typo on there. Sorry about that. And then charitable organizations, college students, it runs the gamut. But here's what I want to focus on for a second is let's just talk about this first circle over here. Maybe these folks don't have any cryptocurrency, but maybe they will in the future. And here's what I love about this. Can you guys see my slide, by the way? Do you see that, Terry?
Yeah, I do.
What I love about this is now I can incorporate that as buying power with the card using the Inside Edge Club and the card that we'll use as that hard debit card that someone has to connect with all the other cards that are out there. And what I want you to speak to for a second, Terry, is how that's done. We've connected with a Swiss bank, and now we have the ability to peel the layers of the onion down and lift the hood up so people can see what banking actually looks like. And guys, when you've done it before, when you have an ACH transaction, when you use your debit card, and what ends up happening, you see pending on there for 3 to 5 days. There's money that's being made in that 3 to 5 days that they're not allowing you to really share in, but for a few points. And I think there's something to the tune of 15 to 20 points that is really out there, isn't there, Terry?
Yeah, easily. And that's really our initial target is to bring the whole debit card banking system, if you will. We're not going to be a bank, but we appear as a bank because we can produce our own card and we can service that card. But the reality is there's no, there's no waiting. There's no need to be waiting because money is transferred instantly, and that's why we're going to cut that out and bring rewards and bring cash back as instantly.
What you just said there is what a lot of people don't understand in banking is that these banks double dip with your money. What does that mean? Typically, when you get your cash back bonuses or your cash back points or anything like that, there's usually like a 30 to 45 day window of when that's available to you. With the Inside Edge Club and the card, that proprietary card that would be given out as a debit card initially, that's instantaneously. In fact, we like to say you order Domino's pizza, and by the time it hits your front doorstep, you've already gotten your 10% back from ordering your pizza inside of your card, usable cash that you can utilize. Can you speak to that for a second there, Terry?
Well, sure. That's really the secret sauce, if you will. We just brought this whole processing, into the 21st century. There's no need, it's like, we don't have to put a stamp on it and put it in the mail. It's instant. And the thing that I like to point out, with the debit card, the soccer moms and the soccer dads are going to learn pretty quickly that they can, everything they purchase. I mean, imagine, as if you will, making your house, your mortgage payment, your car payment, paying your electrical bills, and getting a 10% instant cash back on everything that you purchase, not to mention, going to the grocery store.
It's funny, we talk about the grocery store, and with this picture here with a happy mom shopping, and over here is King Soopers, which is a Kroger brand, and they have something called fuel points. I call them fool points because they expire, number one. Number two, you have to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars to see any type of real reward, as opposed to like 3 cents off a gallon. And people are doing backflips, posting things on Facebook saying, hey, I got 25 cents off a gallon just because of what's happening right now with gas prices. Can you imagine when you fill, like in my SUV, I'm over $100 to fill up my tank of gas. Can you imagine me posting that I got $10 back for that, and I'm doing that twice a week? Oh, and PSO, by the way, when my wife goes to Costco or Sam's Club or anything else, I can't walk out of there without dropping $300 to $500 for a household of 6. And all of a sudden, I'm posting online that I got back $30 or $50 because of my purchasing. This is amazing, especially in the time frame that we're in right now. Can you speak to the demographics around how desperate? I mean, we've nailed down the fact that the average household of 4 spends about $1,200 in consumables every single month. $1,200, not your mortgage, not your utilities, just the snacks, the drinks, the food in your house, maybe clothing, Christmas, all that type of stuff. $1,200. $1,200 doesn't seem like a lot of money, but if someone's getting back 10% of that, $120 a month on just those very purchases with the Inside Edge Club, can you imagine the social media frenzy that would be going on? Can you speak to those demographics there that would be posting that online as well, Terry?
Yeah, you really highlighted it well, Izzy. The soccer mom, the soccer dad. This is something that we envision being in everybody's hands. I mean, everybody. The market for this is incredible, and I know everybody thinks that about their product. But the reality is, a number of years ago, someone said our goal is to put a car in every garage. Well, now there's 2 cars, and sometimes 3 when our kids get to be old enough, and 4. And so this market can expand exponentially. We're excited about that potential, and the use of the card is, much like Teddy Roosevelt sitting in that Model T. He probably had some vision about where it was going to go, but he had absolutely no idea that I was going to be able to drive down the highway and let go of the wheel by pushing a button, and the car driving itself. And I mean, that's the vision I have for this card. I'm getting up there in years, and I'm not going to see. I'm going to see only a fraction of the power of this card. What markets are going to be penetrated, and how the consumer is going to use it and accept it in their everyday life.
Well, I think it's pretty remarkable to be able to attach other cards. We've got some proprietary technology, and I think it's important for people to understand that while the Inside Edge Club with that card is not giving you credit, it's a debit card allowing you to connect with your bank, attach other credit lines on there that aren't giving you cash back. And that proprietary technology is something that we acquired relatively recently. And with the offer that we're doing right now by way of the SPV, I think the valuation is undervalued significantly with the traction that has been made. But on this next slide here, talking a little bit about the customer acquisition strategy, I touched on the fact that it's just simply going to go viral with the power of the web and social media and so on and so forth. But can you talk a little bit about along the way how you guys plan on acquiring customers? Very similar to the general media outlets where you start seeing things like what's in your wallet. So certainly that's going to be part of the plan, but can you speak to that a little bit as well with the exposure and the monies that we have earmarked for that?
Yeah, initially, we're going to rely on heavily on social media from a marketing point of view, and we think we're going to gain a lot of traction there with the soccer moms and dads. But you know, there are many merchants that are out there that are going to be able to offer their clients this card as an added benefit. You know, I've also had conversations with some regional banks. You know, the big banks, the ones we don't have to name, we see them on television every day. Those are really, we're going to be cutting into their business. And when we say we're disruptive, we mean we're really disruptive. They're gonna wake up one day and find out, oh my gosh, you know, the game is over. But the bulk of our money initially from acquiring customers will be through spreading of the word through social media.
For sure. And I think you just hit the nail on the head there. Transparency is something that's going to be huge for Catalyst and the Inside Edge Club card. What'll happen there is people will see how disruptive that was, just like the way the auto industry was with some of these things like TrueCar showing you the true invoice price, what a dealer actually pays for it, and things of that nature. Since the advent of the power of the web, you know, it makes things a lot more visible where consumers have more confidence than ever before making purchases. It's going to beg the question, why in the world would you be using a card that's asking what's in your wallet when you're getting 10% back on every single purchase? That's every single purchase. No blackout dates. No. Only you can do it or get double points on certain types of products, and that's everything. And that excites me when you talk about the size of the amount of money that your traditional consumer can start seeing back. The strategy around social media that we've talked about also includes some of the ones that are in the sort of the outliers or in the fringe. Can you talk a little bit about some of those companies that you guys are already having conversations with?
I actually, to be honest, Izzy, we're lacking. We got our people are spread all over the country right at the moment and unable to be on this call. And I'd be uncomfortable in disclosing him. Will Torbett, who's our marketing guy, as a matter of fact, is meeting as we speak with the Social Bees community that's mentioned on this slide. And so
it's going to be really exciting when we start making some of these announcements. And that's essentially what I was alluding to here, Terry. Whatever that you're able to share, that's great. But I think with respect to the SPV, having already committed a couple $1 million by way of some digital channels, we're super stoked about that. And we'll get into those details in just a second. So let's talk a little bit about the projections here and where you see at the end of 5 years with the amount of wallet holders, tens of thousands of wallet holders. And yet I've always said, I think that number's conservative. But can you speak to what we're seeing here on this slide here, Terry?
Actually, yeah, I think if you would go to the next slide, I'm not sure on the one more, I think. Yeah, that's really more of a.
Well, what I was talking about here was 57,000
Right.
wallet holders, right? With doing transactions, producing over $1.2 billion annually in spending, I think is being undersold as well. What I think will happen in the first couple of years, obviously there's no guarantees, is people are going to just go absolutely crazy with this card, saying, why in the world am I using any other card? I can connect all my debit cards on here and everything else, and they're getting 10% of all of their spending back. I think we can't underscore that enough because of the points that are on the board there that banks are sucking in. So to me, that's very exciting. Running through some of these last slides on here, I think when we have some of the other folks that are with the team present, they can speak more eloquently with some of these channel partnerships and cross marketing, because there's huge money to be made there with affiliate partnerships.
Exactly.
The growth plan that we talked about organically with paid ads and the platforms like Twitter and the cross marketing relationships that we'll have on there is essentially why I think saying 57,000 wallet is grossly undersold. Well, we want to be conservative so that you can see the potential of the company for sure. With respect to the offer that's being done right now, we have an SPV, and there's information. We can get you details on that. Obviously, it's a private offering. So anyone that has questions on there that's listening to this recording or is watching live, certainly ping me and we can go into those details. $5.5 million is what the offer was, and already just about $2.5 million of that has been spoken for. So there's about $3 million left in that SPV, and we're stoked to get that closed and excited to see that move on.
Right.
Any final words that you have before we move on to our next presenter?
Well, I just want to thank you, Izzy, for the opportunity to be with you today. Yeah, to say that we're excited about this is really an understatement. And speaking of understatements, I agree with you. I believe our estimates are conservative, but only time is going to tell, and we're looking forward to having conversations with investors to go into the details, not only of the process, but all the mechanics and technology. What we're like when I was a kid, we used to spread out a puzzle on a card table, and all the family would gather around it. And we have all the pieces to the puzzle. And this offering that we have is really the glue to put it all together. And then as we move forward, we've got ideas where the expansion and the use of this card are just only limited by our imagination.
Hey, Tom, thanks for that, Ferry. Tom, you had mentioned there you want to discuss this product with your bank. You can unmute there, Tom. Go ahead and spotlight Tom, Dan, and Terry can speak to anything that maybe you have a question on before we jump to our next presenter.
I'll do the best I can.
Tom, you're on mute or somehow. I can't hear you. There you go.
You there now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I bank with a Texas Security Bank, which was founded by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. And I just happen to know that right now they don't really, I don't think they have a clear credit card strategy. So I don't know if they'd be interested in this thing or not, but you know what? It sounds to me like something they ought to at least know about. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Tom, for that thought. You know, we have thought a lot about how we approach the market, and that's why we've decided to go to the consumer. The banks, depending on how large this bank is, depending on their coverage, we've found a lot of success. I found locally here in Montana, I got 3 or 4 banks that are really going to be looking at, because it's just their special market, their special clientele that they have that they can serve. So, man, we'd love to have a contact and a conversation with a bank that's particularly technologically has technological leanings.
So can you send me an executive summary or something that I can share with them and see if I can cook up some interest?
Yeah.
And so I actually know the founders of the bank. It's not like my banker. It's like I know the guys who run that place.
Awesome.
So
So
if you can send me an executive summary, like a one pager or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
to
I've
give-
got that.
Okay, if you've got that, just send it to me, and then what I'll do is I'll run it by them if they're interested in actually having a conversation. If they are, I'm going to exit screen right and let you guys run with it.
that's great. Thanks, Tom.
Oh, you're welcome. I think what you got going there is a great idea. I really like it.
Thank you.
Well, it comes from the, and I'll finish up with this. It comes with the background that Terry and the team have. Terry, being humble here, he hasn't mentioned that back in his E.F. Hutton days, if you guys, anyone here is old enough to remember that company, I sure remember those commercials when E.F. Hutton talks, everyone listens. So, or people listen. But needless to say, he did one of the largest transactions working with a blue chip company for their retirement resources. And Terry knows the banking industry as well as the team. And then they've got a brilliant tech team that has been able to put this all together. And with Terry and Mike at the helm and Mark making that strategic acquisition where they didn't even know what they had on their hands, did they, Terry? And now this is something that can be leveraged in such a powerful way that it can bring some significant profits to the investors for sure. So excited to share all those details. Everyone give Terry a round of applause for that. That was great information. It's a sexy
Great.
company. I'm excited for that. Great job.
Thank you, Izzy.
Absolutely. Okay, up next, we've got Gal Garniak with Jembo. Let's go ahead and showcase and spotlight Gal. Gal, can you hear me?
How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Okay, there we go. Yes, I can hear you great. I guess one of your tiles there is on mute. Well, it's good to see you, my friend. Excited about everything that you're doing with Jembo. How are things going out in California right now?
Things are good. I guess it's pretty hot here. I mean, but it's really and the sun is out and weather is good. So and no fires. So I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, that's a good way to start off the summer for sure. Well, I'm excited about what you're doing with Jembo, and we talk about technology and how it can leverage and bring money to the bottom line. It's remarkable what you've been able to do with your background and understanding of tech, and I'd love for you to share with this audience here what you're doing with Jembo and how you're helping the semiconductor industry and everything else that you're doing with your platform. But without further ado, everybody, my good friend and colleague, Gal Garniak.
Hi. So thanks, folks. So before I start, I'll just say that my name is Gal. I've been in this infrastructure industry for about 23 years. Half of that more in the media space, and helped really media companies kind of scale up, move from a single channel lineup to a unicast streaming, the Xfinity, the Amazon Prime, and so forth. And basically their infrastructure ballooned. And between 2010 and 2014, they lost control. So I decided to step out of the corporate life and basically created two companies. My other company is a system integration and IT company, which I've been leading, and kind of it's been ramping up in a very fast pace, and now it's kind of off to the races and generating revenues, and I've decided to kind of focus more now on Gem. Gem has also been founded around that time, and I'll go ahead and present it. A moment. Please let me know if you can see my screen. I guess you can, right? So Gem, you guys can see my screen, correct? Easy? Hello?
Yes, we can see it.
We can see it.
Great.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, I mean, we decided to kind of focus on optimizing the infrastructure for our B2B customers, meaning that we'd like to help them to be help their infrastructure to be up more, predict when it's not, making it more producible, be able to generate more money out of that. So so that's how GEM was born. GEM is all about providing those values that I just mentioned through real-time and predictive analytics. And we created this software as a service platform that allows us to do that. We connect basically to the infrastructure, edges, and mid, and inside there we have multiple analytic infrastructure frameworks and digital twins, and we use that in order to provide the customer the value. As mentioned here, we are focusing these days, although the platform is generic, we have been focusing over the last few years in the smart manufacturing space, industrial, and specifically in semiconductor and electronic, which you all know are now in the bottleneck of the supply chain. Now we decided to kind of focus in this arena because the barrier there are really huge. We got here a complete infrastructure of factories that are doing their best to move to what's called Industry 4.0, and we'll show you the market, but it's remarkable how much they want it, but incapable because they are too busy, because it's like a generational gap, and it's too expensive. So we decided to tackle that. It took us some time. We decided from the get-go to be self-funded until we get the product to where we want it, and we have a few customers that speak about it. And this is why we are talking to the audience now and looking for investment partners. Now, Precare, in a nutshell, as I mentioned, is a software as a service platform. And the idea is that it's very actionable. It's focused around the infrastructure. It has inside it already, we've implemented, it's now in its third release, the machine learning, artificial intelligence, and all the frameworks needed in order to optimize the infrastructure and the business for our customers. Now it's a framework, so I'll show our competitive advantage, but in general, it's a framework, so it allows us to really go into a subscription model and allows us to be very fast in creating a fast ROI for our customers. Hope that makes sense. We also connect end-to-end, which means that we basically connect all the way to the infrastructure, get all the data, process it, and present the analytics. In general, the platform provides extremely valuable benefits to our customers. It allows them in general, and those numbers here at the top are really minimalistic. With our customers, they get going with us, we help them with over 15% improvement in their productivity and availability. We help on the green side, help save costs, because energy costs, because we connect to the machines and we know, and the infrastructure, and we know where there is an opportunity to conserve energy. And we help them, of course, accelerate to the market with the product and increase the revenues because of the productivity. We see it, the platform really sits in the cloud, or it can sit in on-premise, and has a component at the edge that communicates with the cloud and provides interactive analytics with our customers. This is really kind of a breakthrough from their perspective, going out of that, Excel or partial data that they've been dealing with until now. Now, this market has been really accelerating over the last 2-3 years, with investment going from almost zero to over $800 million per round for other companies that have been in this space and are in round B and C. We believe, and we know that we have unique advantages here, where our analytics are better than competition in our space, since we've been focused on the semiconductor, electronic, and automotive. where there are not a lot of players at the moment. We were there kind of at the beginning, and productivity-wise, because we are framework and not point integration, we also have that going for us. We have built-in hierarchical analytics, so everybody can use us, from the VPO down all the way down to the machine operator, which is also important. The market that we are dealing with is a market that is growing fast. It's about 4x what it was predicted, and after COVID, it's been even accelerating further. There is no other choice. Our customers have to move, and the only way to move is using platforms like ours. So it's a very large market, and overall, the manufacturing and industrial part of that is the lion's share out of the whole IoT software platform market. So fifth of that is manufacturing and industrial. And as you know, if you go and try and order an electric car, you will be having to wait for what, a year or half a year? That's because of the electronic components, and because of that, and they are delayed because of the semiconductor components. And we basically cover those three different aspects: semi, electronic, automotive, and we can do more once we get funded and we decide to do so. Very exciting market, and we are not alone there. I mean, there are multiple IoT platforms that are in this space. However, we have a unique kind of leg up because of our ability to have pre-built analytics frameworks for the semi, for the electronics, for the automotive, and I have the other benefits that I just mentioned. We usually, just to be clear, we open up additional 60% of opportunity for improvement versus anyone else in the market, because we decided to look at other aspects that were neglected by others in the past. And we can dive into that if there is someone that is interested in that. I won't dive into this, but we've got about 6 different customer deployments that are global and paying. We've done paid projects with Intel, with Department of Energy, and with Tier 1 electronic manufacturing. We are fully subscription-based, and our revenues have been steadily growing over the last couple of years, kind of 20% year to year. We have about a few hundred K total revenue per year. It's about a few tenths revenues per month, and it's very sticky and growing. We have, in terms of the actual market and footprint and presence, we've already done all the hard work. We've integrated over 90% of the machines out there in the markets that we are in. We have patents on the way. We have customers that can speak for us. We have been in the non-paid industry reviews. And so, again, the idea was to create a good product market fit, customers that can speak for you, and only then go and plan for growth. And that's why we're speaking to this team now. Post-funding, we believe, and we have a very credible over 200 targets and currently in our funnel, but we are looking for funding in order to pursue them. Post-funding, we will be way over $130 million in the 5 years post-investment, where most of the investment, although it will be a first investment we will take, most of it will go into growing the number of logos. We are looking for $5 million, although it can be broken into a first installment, which will be serving as a bridge to another. It can be, the vehicle can be equity or can be safe. We are flexible and working with Easy and the team to secure that. So far, we have a few interested parties. Some of them already signed commitments for some investment, but we are still looking for a lead. And I'll finalize with, the team is the number one thing that we have. And we are 7 full-time people, 10 part-time. We're headquartered in the US and have delivery center in India and some people in Israel. And again, just to be clear, we are looking for partners that can be either one of the two investment partners. Either they have access to our market and can open the doors, or they have management and experience in growing companies like ours to the fullest potential. So that's who we are, what we do, and nice to virtually meet you. Back to you, Ethan.
Excellent job, Gal. And forgive me earlier where it was not coming off of mute there. So in any event, what I want you to share on is because here's what oftentimes happen, I think, as we've been on investor calls before, is it goes right over their head if they don't understand this industry. Let's take a use case scenario of what it looks like when you're not using Jembo as the platform, and then when you implement that, what could happen? Let's take a use case scenario with a semiconductor company, auto, whatever it is. You just give the use case scenario so an investor can really understand the incredible need for using a platform like yours and how profitable it is for Jembo.
Yeah, so I'll give a simple kind of an example, and I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, this is whomever is not coming from since we focus on the industrial space, and my explanation is around that. So those that are not coming from it, it's going to be really challenging. But I'll explain. The idea is that when someone has an infrastructure, let's say a semiconductor, electronic, or automotive, they have multiple types of machines, and every machine is operating like a human, right? They operate, they produce some things, some good, some bad. They have their own defined pace of supposedly doing things, and they are supposed to be up all the time. So using current solutions, the main focus was about the good and the bad parts, and that's called yield, and that's what was given so far. But multiple other aspects were neglected that significantly impact those factories, such as the amount of the uptime of the machine, whether it's down, up, or why, the pace by which it manufactures, and if it's not supposed in the correct pace, then why, and predicting all. So without it, you're basically maximizing 30% of your infrastructure. With us, you get all the way to the 100. So that's kind of an example where the factory can produce X amount, let's say 10 million parts a week, where we, after they are working with us, even starting, they can get 30% increase on their productivity. And that's huge, as you can.
I don't know if everybody heard that, a 30% improvement in just the output with these machines. And typically what ends up happening, Gal, when they're not monitoring that, what's happening that Jembo identifies these inefficiencies?
So what we do with our customers, both at the VP level, factory owner, as well as the machine operators, we allow them to see immediately, even ahead of time. We recognize the possibility for a failure, and then we alert them over email and over our UI, and we can do over text as well. And they are able to kind of go and address those issues if they are using our system. If they are not, they are simply reacting, and that means the machine is down for an extended amount of time. And then it's not about just the 30% down, it's zero. So that's kind of the upside and the downside as well. And we've had it just a couple of weeks ago in one of our customers. One of their boards broke, and this is a machine we are not covering, and they were just sitting out there and waiting for looking at them. Yeah.
And one of the important things to recognize is these machines are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, right? Yep. And you guys can also forecast maintenance and things that need to happen to avoid a very costly situation. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so we basically collect information about the machine and the infrastructure, and it can be even outside the factory. Our models are generic. It can be any machine, and we, with our machine learning and artificial intelligence, we're able to identify patterns, cross-correlate between them, and provide our customers kind of a view of the next few weeks where we have a probability for failure and allow them to, once we go above a threshold, they know that they need to go and handle that machine or that area, which will allow it to continue and operate as it should. So yes, those what we call the predictive analytics package that we provide.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I think about even applications such as like, chains of fast food restaurants. Can you imagine if you knew ahead of time that the compressor is starting to, not operate as efficiently as it should, and all of a sudden you have, thousands of dollars in, and it turns into thousands of dollars across the board when you've got several restaurants that this ends up happening to. I think that could be an incredible vertical for Jembo as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We've been approached by the retail segment. Your example is correct, as well as the examples of the larger groceries like the Safeway, like the Kroger, like all of those that have that infrastructure of refrigerators. And forget it's also compliance. Imagine what happens when the fridge will drop a little bit and the milk will be spoiled. I mean, the exposure from the insurance side of the house is going to be huge on them. So yeah, a lot of potential.
Excellent job, Gal. I think your platform, we need to heighten the visibility of that, because they're especially now with supply chain, the issues, no one wants another hiccup. So whatever they can do to bring 30% to the bottom line, your platform is very much needed. Great job. Super impressive.
Thank you, Izzy, and thank you everybody else here. Appreciate the feedback.
Absolutely. Give Gal Garniak a round of applause from Jembo. Excellent job, Gal. All right, up next, could you feature and spotlight Duncan Burns? Hey, Dunk, how are you?
Unmute myself. There we go. Hey, thank you, Izzy. What a great session this has been. I'm enthralled.
I mean, just brilliant. Each one of these founders are, and I'm going to speak to that here in my closing remarks after you. Dan, if I'm correct, I believe that Duncan is the last one up. We've had a couple of changes and dropouts because of illness and things of that nature. But really excited about what's on the horizon, and given what's happening in the market, it's trying to make its way back. I sure hope it does. I hate seeing when there's blood on the streets, but there's always opportunity, and certainly with Veggie Dome and everyone else that has presented, there's significant opportunity. So Dunk, I've got your Veggie Dome. In fact, I'm going to be having people over this weekend, and we'll be cutting up fresh vegetables and putting them inside of the Veggie Dome. And it's really remarkable to watch, because once that's out on the table, people just immediately, reach in there and start. I think even more so than with a crudité. For some reason, it just appears fresher when you see the beating of moisture on the outside of the dome. I don't want to steal the thunder from what you're about to present here, but I'm excited about your product. I think it like what was said earlier about having a car, like Terry was saying, in every garage. I think every kitchen counter should have one of these devices with the BioValve technology and everything else. So without further ado, my good friend and colleague, Duncan Burns with the Veggie Dome.
Thank you, Izzy. That was a great introduction, and talking about the fact that people, over the weekend, you can have the same vegetables out on the table that you put Friday evening, and by Sunday, the guests will still be able to have fresh vegetables out of there if they haven't eaten them up. If you're doing it right, it'll be empty because they're eating them up. So I'll go ahead and share the screen here and tell you here that the Veggie Dome is something that's part of a huge movement in this country towards people eating healthier, and people are more involved with being able to boost their immunity and be healthier lifestyles. And vegetables are actually much more available in the industry around the country. It used to be that if you go a couple hundred miles away from LA, at least, all you could get was an iceberg lettuce. Veggie Dome is a patented way to be able to keep vegetables that you're going to eat fresh on the table. Let me see if I can move the next slide. I invented this as a dad who wanted my kids to come home and have fresh vegetables and fruit out on the table and have them not be snacking on crackers, but eating something that's more substantial. What happened, though, is I actually solved bigger problems than just snacks on the table. And this is what happened, is that we have a problem of throwing away so much of our vegetables. We buy fresh vegetables, we throw away 40% of them at home. These are ones that we bought in the store that were perfect, $100 a month per household in the United States. And one of the reasons is it's out of mind. We're putting them in plastic bags in the refrigerator, and then we really don't think about eating them. And then it comes January 1st, we want to do a new resolution is I'm going to eat more vegetables and eat healthier this year. So people want to, but 90% of Americans do not eat the daily amount of fruits and vegetables. That's, if you flip it over, only 10% do. That's not even a good F, everybody, okay? We should get towards eating more of these fresh vegetables. And once you do, your body calls for it. It's like, oh man, I feel like having a carrot stick. I feel like having celery. So what happens is the solution to this problem is to bring it out onto the table. You keep vegetables and fresh fruit out on the counter with water vapor. How does that work? Well, you see them and you eat them. And how does this contraption work? Well, this is the thing. It is a simple device. It is actually keeping them inside, let's say, a cookie jar for vegetables. It's got that lid on the top. And when I put that lid on the top, it made a proprietary shape. I'll show you that the lid is open on the top, but it's also the containers open on the bottom, so they're not resting in a lot of puddles or moisture. It's much better that it's open on the bottom. It sits on a colander, and I'll show you more pieces later. But the water vapor stays inside the dome, and the cookie jar lid allows ethylene gas, which makes the vegetables spoil faster. It escapes, so they're in this perfect environment, given this very kind of simple tool that it allows these bio processes to take place. The vegetables are putting ethylene into the air, it escapes, but the same lid, which is a valve that's letting that gas out, keeps the vapor inside. It's utility patented, and this is the thing. It's simple. So what I find sometimes, and I added some slides here, I hope Izzy doesn't get mad, that it is the fact that it is a simple device seems to make people kind of go, well, I don't know if I should get involved with this. Well, guess what? This was a simple device, and it sold a lot. And what did it do? It controlled airflow in a way that people hadn't done before. A simple device that just made a little difference in a toy that made it so that, look at this, we're controlling airflow with also a simple device, and the airflow keeps water vapor near the plants in your kitchen. And the IP and trademarks that are in place, we are protected not just with 3 design patents, but with a utility patent for any vegetable container with allowing ethylene gas to escape and keeping moisture in below. What happened? Well, we started with the Indiegogo campaign, and 790 customers in 45 days, bottom site, just thinking that's a good idea. Not just from 1 or 2 states, but 47 of our states bottom in that 45-day period. Everybody wants an easier way to eat healthy and not throw so much vegetables away. We've sold 7,000 units over the last 4 years. We're selling currently at a $59.99 online price. We've done several test market venues over that period of time. And now there's a targeted mass market price that we want to get to by scaling production and doing a slightly better improvement, which is $39.99. That's how you sell a lot more. That's how you get them into kitchens and people start talking about it. Going to market strategies, which include a litany of things. And we're not spreading ourselves too thin. We've literally made connections with retailers. We've made connections with hotels and health spas. And we're right now working with a licensing team that will be able to, they claim within this year, be able to start earning $100,000 from licensing of this patent because they like the idea. They see it and they think it's a good idea to add to, let's say, the housewares. Basically, we've been selling it online. Veggiedome.com and Grommet have been our main sales. There's also ways of selling it through social causes. Think of this. It's a device that helps people have a healthier household. The American Diabetes Association, which we've been in touch with, if we can be able to make a cause fundraising with them, guess what? It's a win-win. The Diabetes Association, they earn money with the sale of it. The household benefits by the fact that they bought it. It's not like Girl Scout cookies where you're buying these things that are literally poison. I'm not going to go that far, but the idea is with these social causes, we're getting them into households that way, in a way that people then have a word of mouth. QVC, we've been in touch with them. We've got a direct connection with somebody whose office is in the QVC building. Now, what happens with this in the sales is that we literally can go towards a demand for a new tool. And this new tool is for health providers in nutrition and dietitian industry, definitely a multi-billion-dollar industry. There are different lifestyle groups with healthy families and vegans, which obviously are passionate about that. Housewares, this is a brand new device for housewares. And the weight loss industry, which is obviously a multi-billion-dollar industry. Let's just dwell on that real quick. You want somebody to be able to change their lifestyle. You tell them, listen, you got to eat more vegetables and fruit. They go home. They look at the same kitchen that they've been seeing for the last 20 years. How are they going to change their life and their diet? Guess what? They've got a Veggiedome sitting on the counter with the vegetables that they're going to eat over the next couple of days, and they eat them up. It's an easy thing, it looks pretty, and it is really an important tool for all of these divisions. All of them multi-billion-dollar industries that we can market to directly. This product has purpose. There's a huge movement of people eating more vegetables and getting very passionate about it. I'm not going to dwell on this, but let me tell you, the Food Revolution Network on this side of the page here, that had a full week-long seminar, 4 hours a day. How many people do you think would be on that Zoom meeting? Do you know how many? Well, 250,000 people were live on that Food Revolution Network. Yes, it was kicked off by Paul McCartney at the very beginning. He's passionate about it. There's also a huge amount of people who are leaders in our communities and in sports and including Director James Cameron and a lot of different people who are saying, you know what, we have to eat more vegetables. Our senior management team, me, Philip Nardell, who's really been experienced in consumer products and management experience with corporations down the line. Trevor, who's an amazing, proactive and answer-oriented individual. He's really been integral with my company. And Pat Fiore, she's been amazing in terms of her marketing experience. Bringing category creators to the market is her specialty. Worked with huge groups, Jordache and Sergio Valente. Advisors, I've got this page of advisors. I can give you another 4 pages of advisors. Every person who of leadership that I've talked to is interested in being involved and helping this happen. You know why? Because it's something that they feel is important for people's households. Now, how we're going to be able to make money on this is to be able to sell a lot of them. Well, what happens is every time I've worked with people who are selling the Veggiedome with me and for me, they're proud of being able to get it to people and be able to have another person purchase it and bring it to their household. And I will go through this list, if you like, on a private meeting, because there really are some important people, including Izzy, who's awesome, and making sure that this is going to be a straight course in terms of a win-win for both the investor and for the company itself. We are looking for $750,000. Our use of funds, I'm going to be vague about it, where it is. Don't give you exact figures, because this is something that we need to be able to step out there. Most of the money is going towards the actual inventory. So the funds are not like, oh, we're having $750,000 of this. A large portion is going to just a dream diagram that we've got here. No, it's going to be an actual inventory that's going to be ready for sales. It's going to happen quickly, although the new molds, which you can also see is a good fourth of the money, are going to be able to be designed. We can make 1 million veggie domes after we can get these molds made. Those are going to take about 3 or 4 months. So there's a bit of a delay in terms of getting these on the shelves, even though we're making them now. The improvement is actually going to make them more cost effective. They're going to make them less expensive for us and lighter, so that they're going to be less of a shipment payment. A financial summary is that, yes, we're going to start out. The first year is, again, making the molds and getting those units out onto the shelves, which would be about a 7 to 9 month period. But then once we do get them on the shelf, and we can time this so that we get them during the holiday season, it's not going to be this year, it's going to be potentially the next year. We're going to be the new thing for the kitchen. Something that you can give your mom for Christmas, somebody you can give for a wedding present, that is literally going to help change their household and make it healthier. So that's one of the things that we're saying, is that we'll be able to expand with the online sales, and retail is obviously really strong in our book, and we've got that lined up. They are just waiting. They want us to be able to have 10,000 units, or else they can't start talking about putting them on the shelves. Funding is, again, $750,000, which, gosh, to be able to revolutionize the kitchen for $750,000, this is something that is not a really expensive project to do. And we are involved with 2 ways in which you can invest and get your money back. The revenue share option, which would be more short term, you get a percentage of the sales that are going to be out on the shelves. That would be coming back to you within that year. But also there's an equity deal, which is really something that we're interested in, because we are going to expand. We're going to go international, and we do need to expand the markets. And that's where the money is really going to start coming in. We do have already a very firm investment interest, and he is international. He is interested in marketing in even places like India and in Africa. Izzy, I've really been working hard on, it's really been exciting with this investor now coming on board. But I think we need to have more muscle and making sure that the decisions that are utilized and the money that's coming in is something with guidance. That I'm looking for investors who have certain experience with potentially consumer products, or that are interested in the building of a trend. Literally, this is something that can happen in everyone's kitchen if we make it to the price that is going to make it so that people go, oh yeah, I got one of those for $40 and literally change my kitchen. My kids are eating healthier. So that's going to be word of mouth.
I think what's exciting to mention here, Duncan, as well, and I know you touched on the patent. The utility patent is incredible. Having that awarded is significant. So any investors that are listening, how can this scale? Well, you take this utility patent, and maybe you have a glassware company that has the ability to manufacture this design and put it on the shelves of the upper echelon of some of the stores like Crate and Barrel, or Williams-Sonoma, and all these high-end stores where I just think it's beautiful and luxurious, the piece. Next time you present, Duncan, maybe showing yours, or if you have one right nearby so people can see that.
I don't, it's in the other room. But
that is, I think about hotels and by the pool and stuff with fresh fruits and vegetables. When you're out in the heat and you're around people that are very sensitive to health and wellness, putting out fresh fruits and vegetables in front of them, they gobble them up like this. And I think the hotels is a great angle, the cruise ships, all that. So if you're listening as an investor, partnering with the right type of glassware company, that would be instrumental and certainly would kick things off. But our associate overseas that we've been talking to, there's inroads that could be made there. I am super stoked for what's going to be happening with VeggieDome over the next year, because what you've been able to do thus far on a shoestring budget is nothing short of amazing, Duncan. So super proud of you, excited to be a part of this project, and it's remarkable. The simplicity of this, yet what it actually does with the BioValve technology and allowing that ethylene gas to escape, keeping those fruits and vegetables fresher longer, is just absolutely incredible. Now I don't have a soupy mess in the bottom of my refrigerator anymore. You know that. And the world needs to know about that you can keep fruits and vegetables right outside on your kitchen counter with a device like this. That's exciting. That changes with the kitchen landscape.
And again,
Absolutely.
what you mentioned about it being simple, sometimes people have a little bit of reluctance, like, well, it's so simple. Well, the utility patent's going to help it so that we are making this product. But that's also why I added that one little quick shot of a Frisbee. Yes, it was simple,
Yeah.
but guess what? Nobody had done it. And why not? Because they just hadn't done it. We just need to manufacture these, mass produce them, and they'll be out there, and they'll become then a trend that we are on top of. In a era where people are eating more vegetables and talking about it, there's this wave of people eating more vegetarian / plant-based diets and everything. We own the stage of the vegetables on the table. The stars are inside the vegetables, the carrots and everything. We own the display.
No question about it. Great job, Duncan Burns. Give him a round of applause. Absolutely incredible. And guys, I'm going to give you my my final remarks here and sort of my perspective on what's going on in the market right now. And thank you so much for your presentation, Duncan. You always do an excellent job.
Great.
So thanks everybody for joining today. And as I mentioned, we had a little bit of a shorter roster because of some illnesses and some other meetings that were happening. But needless to say, I'm so super impressed, as I'm sure you are as well, with the brilliance of the people that are featuring their companies. And our client companies here at FEP Collaborative, we do a lot of due diligence. There's lots of people that want to be a part of our cohort. A lot of times it's just not a fit. And I will tell you, with the state of the market and what we're doing with SPVs to help these companies along the way, because there are lots of sophisticated investors out there that are very interested in investing in these companies and alternative investments, but making sure it's in a way that fits in the style that they invest. You can contact us related to SPVs and what's available and what that looks like there. And there'll be other companies featured through that because we're going through some due diligence processes with several of them. In any event, with what's happened over the last couple of weeks, with the market being upside down and sideways, and it's up right now, and who knows where it'll land up the beginning of next week or whatever happens. But I can tell you right now, there are just some key indicators that tell us maybe the market's going to go down. Maybe it's been overinflated. Again, I throw maybes out there because I don't have a crystal ball, and you don't need to, is the bottom line. When you look at companies like this, is what I was getting at. They're not reliant upon what's going on in the capital markets in the public space. When you make an investment in a private company, obviously the stock market comes down, your value in one of these companies doesn't come down. Why? Because if something happens in the public markets and Apple, a Tiffany stock to own, comes tumbling down, it doesn't necessarily mean that they lost the plans to the next MacBook Pro or the next iPhone, or that their basement was on fire. It doesn't mean anything like that at all. It just means that the public markets are looking for other places to put money for some legitimate concerns. And what I will tell you is, even though we've seen a bump in interest rates of 0.75%, it just wasn't enough to catch up with what we're seeing in inflationary rates. So there's huge cash sitting on the sidelines right now. And if you're listening as an entrepreneur that is looking to fund your company and think it's a bad time to do so, I think that's the furthest thing from the truth. I think right now, smart money is looking for smart founders, bright entrepreneurs with great ideas like this cohort here. And you guys have seen a microcosm of them, of the selection that we have with Fidelity Equity Partners and FEP Collaborative. But what I believe is going to continue to happen is more and more money is going to flow into these companies. Why? Because history has told us that when there's hiccups in the market, money flows into alternative investments. These companies would be considered alternative investments, and I am super proud to be featuring them as a part of our cohort and what we're doing to assist them with heightening the visibility and their capital needs. That's all I wanted to say, except for thank you so much, Dan Matthews, for everything that you do. If you guys want to unmute or show him some love in the chat and everything else, Dan is a remarkable individual, part of our team that overlooks these companies and or oversees these companies rather with their financial modeling and make sure that it all makes sense. Why is that important? Because many of you that are investing don't have the time or inclination to run through it the way Dan does. By the way, he does it so efficiently. I always joke all the time, if you've ever seen that movie, The Matrix, he can just look at numbers and say, oh, that's a pretty girl over there, and that's a steak, and this, that, or the other thing. He just knows what numbers should look like to make sure that it pencils. He's been able to help these folks in a meaningful way to make sure when they're in front of investors, their foot doesn't go in their mouth. Not everybody is cut out to be a startup founder. Lots of folks are inventors and engineers, but when you collaborate with us in FEP Collaborative, what we're able to do is pick up those pieces where maybe you don't have the expertise in and you're not being showcased well. So I'm super excited that Dan was able to be able to do that for our companies here and put them in front of sophisticated investors. So if you're interested there, drop us a note. We'd love to chat with you. If you're an investor that wants to learn more about these companies, I'd be hard pressed to believe that you'd find another highly concentrated group of sophisticated potential investments for your portfolio than this cohort here. They're absolutely remarkable. We do everything that we can to showcase these bright entrepreneurs, and super proud to be a part of them. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Go ahead, Tom. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, I've had a couple of meetings now, and Dan has made me look really good.
He does.
Thank you, Dan.
Anyway, so thanks a lot, Dan. I appreciate it.
He makes us all look good. Dan is like the special effects. He's the people that are behind the scenes at a Broadway play. He showcases everybody and looks for no credit. And it's amazing how he loves this business, loves to help people, loves to help businesses. And it's an honor, and I'm blessed to be a part of working with Dan. Thank you again so much, Dan, for all that you do. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend.
Right.
Happy Father's Day, belated from last week. And we will see you on the next one, and we'll announce that date. Well, let's do it now. It'll be on July, let's see, the last Friday will be July 29th. We will see you here again, same bat time, same bat channel on July 29th. Have a great weekend, everybody, and a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Izzy.
Thank you, Izzy.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
All right. We'll see you guys soon.